You know, back in the old days, there was this program called Layaway, where you can go into like a store and start making payments on something, some high-dollar ticket item, and once you paid that off every month, it was yours. You could take it home. That's how I bought my first deer rifle from the Marine Corps PX on Camp Lejeune in North Carolina. And it was the first, weapon that I bought that I purchased myself. It wasn't a hand-me-down. It wasn't my dad's. It wasn't anything like that. So I went and I picked out this 30-06, and I just didn't have a lot of money. And so I did the layaway program, but I needed a scope on it. And the cheaper scopes were all sold out. And so I bumped up to like this entry-level loophole scope and put that on the layaway program and had them all, put the whole package together for me and all that. Made the payments and finally got to bring it home. Ever since then, almost every rifle I've owned has had a loophole scope. In fact, I'm having a custom rifle built this year, and it's going to have the loophole Mark 5 HD scope on it. I just killed a buffalo with that scope. It's a really great product. And loophole guys, you know them. Everybody knows loophole. They've been around since like 1907. They started as like a special instrument company or something like that. But these American-made products are fantastic. Whether you're looking for a spotter, binos, a rifle scope, accessories, tripods, bipods, all that kind of stuff. You can find it all at loophole.com. And I'd really appreciate if you supported this American company that has a great American story. And I couldn't be a bigger fan of a company, and I'm so happy and thrilled that they've chosen to partner with the Western Huntsman. Thanks to Leupold, and thanks to you guys for supporting our great sponsors. Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready to make this elk season your best season yet? If you answered yes, my friends, you are in the right place. From the Western Huntsman Podcast, brought to you by Phelps Game Calls, welcome to the School of September, the most comprehensive elk hunting series on the planet. We bring you the world's top archery elk experts to talk strategy, calling, and everything else to get you one step closer to some of your wildest dreams. From the Broken Time Studio to your knowledge toolbox, class is in session. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this next installment of School of September, right here on the Western Huntsman Podcast, brought to you by Eastman's Hunting Journals, and I am coming at you from the Broken Time Studio with a good old friend of mine that you guys are going to really like. Before I kick it off and introduce him, just a quick reminder. School of September, this is part of the gear series of the School of September. Thank you guys for listening out there that have shown so much interest in this. I didn't know how big of a deal like gear. You guys know me. I'm not like a big gear junkie, so I have a gear junkie for you. And so I appreciate everybody's interest in this gear series. A couple weeks ago, I did the what's in my day pack kind of thing. It went over way better than I thought it would. So we're doing it again with somebody that has a lot more knowledge. He could tell you the model number of just about everything out there. And before I bring him on, I want to give a quick shout out, let you guys know to check out Browning X Bolt 2, the new rifle that just came out. This is a new sponsor on the show, and I'm really excited about this sponsor. I feel like I made it to the big time when you got somebody like Browning or something. But experience the evolution of accuracy with the new Browning X Bolt 2. With the introduction of the X Bolt, Browning set a new standard in the development of bolt-action rifles. It was created around the goal of total accuracy, where every component worked in unison to improve downrange performance straight out of the box. From windswept tundras to rocky peaks high above the tree line to African plains and everywhere in between, the X Bolt delivered the tack-driving accuracy a Browning rifle is respected for. So, guys, I just barely got one of these. Super cool rifle. I really like the the Vari-Tech Stock. It's like one of those things, rifles are not supposed to be this one-size-fits-all thing, and this Vari-Stock allows you to adjust it to fit you perfectly, and that's going to improve your accuracy. It's going to improve your comfort as a shooter. So go ahead and check that out, guys. I don't have a promo code for these guys, but there's a lot of features on this rifle that you should know about. It's a good old-fashioned American company. Again, that is the Browning X Bolt 2 new rifle. I got mine in the 6.8 Western, which I've never shot that round before, but I'm going to try it out now. And I think it's going to be my bear gun. So thanks for all the sponsors on the show. Guys, so for this episode of School of September, we're going to switch gears. So I need you to get your mind out of the rifle mindset. We're going back to archery elk season here for School of September's gear series with the one and only Guy Duplantier. Now, Guy's been on the show many times in the past. We've had a lot of really good conversations. I've always called him like the gear correspondent of the Western Huntsman, or the best gear guru that I know, because he's really into the gear aspect of it. In fact, he's so into it, he's got a cool company called Western Fly Covers. I've got one of these bad boys. If you listen to my Daypack series, you'd have heard me tell the story about all the different things I've used that fly cover for. And what that is a pack cover to keep your pack dry in the wet. And I've used it for that. I've used it to put elk quarters on to keep them from laying in the dirt before I bag them up and hang them. I've used it. I made that. I told you guys about how that spot I was overlooking that drainage, and it was raining on me. And so I took these sticks and made an umbrella out of it and sat under it. This thing's awesome. And so, Guy, I appreciate you joining me, man. This is going to be a good episode, and looking forward to it, brother.
Brother, I'm honored, man. School of September. Like, how do you know you've made it in podcast? Is Jim's School of September? So that's badass, brother. Thank you, man.
I
gotta
swear.
get you.
What's
I gotta
that?
get you a Western Fly Cover pursuit poncho. You need a pursuit poncho.
Oh man, yeah. I'll buy it, man. I love that kind of stuff.
We'll have to get you that pursuit poncho, man. That thing is it's made for everything you do. I'll try and get one out tomorrow. Since you got spring bear rolling, you'll love it.
Man.
If you like the pack fly, you'll love that pursuit poncho. So
I do. I love that pack fly. That is just one of those things that, there's this initial design it's for, but there's so many different uses for it. It's super lightweight, and I like it. I've gotten like elk and bear blood all over it, and it cleans up nice. It's easy. And I use it for, I can't tell you how many things I've used that Western Fly Cover for. But what's the idea behind the poncho? Like over, if you're fully outfitted with a rain gear.
There's the problem, right? There's a problem. So I'm on the mountain for 30 days in September, right?
Mm-hmm.
Less a day, right? It starts on the 2nd. I want people to razz me there about that. So I'm on the mountain for that amount of time. If I'm living out of my pack, I'm not carrying my everyday wear, my soft shell or my outer, and worried about carrying rain gear. I used to do it, and it sucks, dude. It sucks. And then you get in that position to where, hey, I got to throw it on. Well, I got to take my pack off. I got to, sometimes depending on what system you have to take your boots off. By the time I do that, it's September, a spring storm, it's damn near halfway through, right? So it's like easy on and off, man. That poncho, I keep it rolled up. So I run the IA packs too, right? And I keep it rolled up in that little side pouch. It's on the side for like the water bottle size. I grab it out of it, slip it over me in my pack. It has an extended rear on it, so you can wear it over your packs. So you're keeping your critical gear and your pack dry. Perfect fit on the hood, right? Like I worked on this hood till I was blue in the face to make sure that it was good with archery equipment. I can wear this poncho if I'm on a bull, if I'm on a deer, if I'm on a bear, and it's archery equipment that I can draw. It's not going to get in my way. Nothing's going to grab. It's not going to mess with my anchor. Cinch it perfectly. It doesn't mess with my periphery. And it goes perfect over the bill of a hat. So it takes the water off. I mean, remarkable, right? I'm biased as all get up. But, ask anybody that's used it. Joe swears by this thing. And
really?
He won't regular rain gear. So now am I saying that you can handle a good storm, but am I going to tell you to go out in the middle of November when it's getting really nasty, and just have the poncho with you? By all means, I've done it, but that's because out of necessity, I need to make sure this thing can go through the seasons. And it's probably not the best fit for, winter weather. It does work. But in September and in fall, dude, you don't need to carry 2.5 pounds, 3 pounds of rain gear, and you can run a 16-ounce poncho that does the same thing. And it's designed for us, right? By us. My test group on the Pursuit poncho was 13 dudes. My wife was in there too. But what I did is I needed to find something that was a one size fits just about everybody, unless you're super round or you're, uber tall. And that's how I designed the thing, right? Like here's the mean with all these guys with these different guys. Here's their draw length, here's their wing length, here's their height, and I just broke it down like that. So yeah, westernflycovers.com, folks. Shameless plug.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I'd love to try one of those out. Just because you're right. When the thing is usually in September, what's going, and this is in my neck of the woods. I imagine it's the same down there in Colorado with you. Uh, you're going through and you see this big storm cloud rolling in, and you know it's about to rain because you can see the rain, you can smell the rain, and I hate having to take my pack completely off, dig out my rain gear, and then an hour later that storm blows out, and then I've got this soaked rain gear that I
Where's
don't
it
want to
gonna
have
go?
to, yeah, I have to stuff that back into my pack, and then I wait for everything to dry. So something like that would be definitely useful. I'd definitely get a lot of use out of that for those, spring hunts and that early season hunt in September. It'd be perfect.
I didn't, it's perfect for shade. So if it's a little hot, or you're up on a ridge glassing that spring bear and it's getting a little hot, man, you tarp it up over you and good to go. It doesn't have the grommets, right? I didn't want all that crap hanging in the weight. I mean, 16 ounces,
Hmm.
dude. It folds up to about 10 by 8 by 1 inch.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a good piece, man. It's a really good piece. Again, biased as all get up, brother.
That's okay. Well, speaking of September and September gear and everything else, there's a lot of discussion out there. There's a lot of marketing out there. There's a lot of, and you and I have talked in the past. I think you've given me a hard time because I kind of, I'll get a certain piece of gear and I don't even remember what it's called. And I draw a blank on it. I don't pay that much attention to it. I just know kind of consistently, and this is whether I'm hunting for myself or if I'm guiding or whatever. I know what works. I know it works really well, and I just kind of keep that stuff going. You like to try new gear, and you've always been kind of this, like, how I've talked in the past about with archery equipment and archery hunting. There's like kind of two parts to it. You have your guys that are, they're way into the hunting aspect of it, and then you have your guys that are just archery enthusiasts that also like to hunt. And they're way into both of those. And I'm not like that. I use a bow because it's the tool that is allowed when elk are screaming their heads off. So I'm not like a archery enthusiast, although I am getting a lot of shooting in on I made this cool little 3D range, man. It's so
Yeah, I
much
got
fun.
one. Isn't that
Uh,
nice just to go in the backyard at any moment and just start
yeah,
flinging?
man.
It's
Dude, my
awesome.
daughter almost smoked a cow elk in our backyard last season with her bow.
Heck
And
yeah.
she that cow got suspicious right as she was drawn back and dipped into the dark timber. But so but anyway, yeah. The point with that, where kind of I was going with that is, for I feel like you get a lot of enjoyment out of gear and trying out new gear and kind of tinkering with it and playing with it and seeing what works and talking about it, and so yeah, that was kind of the idea with this episode. So with that, let's can you give us like I
I'm
want to
gonna
kind of
I'm
put.
gonna I'm gonna give you everything you want, or try to, but I'm gonna
Okay.
preface. Can I preface it first, please?
Yeah, yeah.
You said something that needs to be repeated and listened to, right? You know what works, right?
Hmm.
So Jim will get a bow, Jim will get an arrow set up, Jim will get a broadhead, and he'll start shooting it, and it works, and that's what he continues. That is the most important aspect of the gear part of it. I have this obsession with, can I F it up? Does it really say, or does it really do what they say it's going to do? Right. And that's kind of where it started with me. Um, and it's not always about the latest and greatest. It's about, does it perform? Right. I mean, and then there's a ton of marketing, right? Not just within our demographic, but the outdoor space all in all. I mean, when you fly fisherman, right? Fly fishing guide.
Mm-hmm.
How many freaking flies are the best fly you ever done tie? You know what I mean? It's just like if it's catching fish and it's serving the fisherman, then yeah, it's probably good, right?
You know
It's
what? You know what the difference with fly fishing gear and hunting gear is? Fly fishing gear is designed like with an overcomplicated method of use versus simplifying it. Where I feel like hunting gear, they're trying to figure out how to simplify things and make things better, like having a poncho, like you were saying right there. Throw that on instead of getting all ring geared out. Not fly fishing, man. The more complicated they make it, the more it'll sell, and it drives me
it's
bananas.
crazy. I
Yeah,
mean, and that's a challenge, right, in the industry, right? Because if you're not, and it's not necessarily always innovation, but if you're not appearing to be innovative, you
yeah,
fall off, right?
yeah, exactly.
It's like, oh, that's run of the mill because they didn't change. You hear it every year with the flagship bows, right? Oh, they didn't really change anything. It's just, well, it's marketing, bro. Like,
It
you
really
know,
is. I think it's
that's
like a progressive change. I remember back in like 2008, I bought this brand new. It was the first time I bought a brand new bow, not some pawn shop special, and I remember thinking, like, you can't get any better than this. The next year, the bow wasn't really any better. The next year, I don't remember it being any better. But over 10 years, that's when you
yeah,
really see a big change. And over
yeah.
over 15 years, man, there's a big difference between that bow and my new Matthews lift. So
I mean, what can they do now at this point?
I
What,
know,
right?
like
Like it,
heat guided broadheads or something.
yeah. It's like that. Somebody posted something with they were at the range and they posted the Rambo thing when he's shooting the exploding broadheads, and some dude was like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
it's about time I start shooting these at animals." But I mean, that's
Yeah.
again, I wanted to preface everything with that, right? It really, really is about what works best for you, um, and that's there's some talk in that too, and not what the marketing tells you that you should be using, right? It's not all practical. Some of it's very expensive. And a lot of folks don't have the finance. I would rather see guys get the stuff that works for you, but still be able to forge your tag and not be stressing about
Yeah.
tag applications and things like that when it's time to rock and roll, and a lot of us fall into the trap, man. So yeah,
Yeah.
there's my September gear is something else, brother.
Yeah. I kind of
What
want.
scenario do you want to start with?
Well, let's start with, first of all, let's start with let's start with your bow. Let's
Okay.
talk about your bow, and we'll kind of take from so you got to have a bow, right? Everybody listening. I don't know if you know this, but if you're going to kill an elk, you got to have a bow in September. Well, that's not true. Apparently in Utah they have a September rifle season.
Yes, they do, sir.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
they do.
So I just
Believe
learned
it
about that.
starts in August too. I think it starts late August, dude.
I don't remember. It was years ago when I hunted Utah, when I lived down there, but I do remember hunting. I had a tag towards the end of August for elk and deer, and the elk were not bugling at the time, but it was super hot. But anyway, let's start with a bow, and
Okay.
and and then we'll kind of take it from, because I feel like in my opinion, gear is all like this foundational thing. You have to have a foundation. Okay, you're gonna have. You got to have a good bow. You want to be and you don't necessarily have to have a super expensive bow, but you want to have a bow that you're proficient with, you're confident with, and you can take out and kill an elk. Obviously, you don't want.
Mhm.
Again, I would warn people: don't pick up a pawn shop special like I did 20 years ago. If they blow up in your face when you're aimed in on a nice mule deer on a Utah August archery hunt.
Yeah, get them. Better take it to the pro shop, get it checked out before you spend the money.
Yeah, I didn't know
Um,
that.
Bow wise, I mean, wow. Like, where do you start with that, right? I mean, for me, I'm shooting the Matthews, the lift. I started shooting. Went back to shooting Matthews last year. Have
Hmm.
had an opportunity to get in the bow, um, for the cheap. So I went that way. I've been shooting prime for probably 5 or 6 years. Was shooting Matthews before that. Um, really liked. I shot the bow after I saw the aesthetics.
Yeah,
When I
yeah.
saw the bow, I thought it was very pretty, and I'm like, hot damn, right? I mean, if we're being honest, when we're attracted to something, generally it starts with the aesthetics. And I
Yes.
saw the bow and I looked at it and I was like, oh my God, right? I got that real tree bottom land. It's just beautiful bow.
Hmm.
Um, the lines on it look great. So I picked it up, I shot it, nice bow. Um, that's what got me in it, to be honest with you. And I got a hookup on it. Okay. Um,
Yeah.
so I
And
started
with
shooting it. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. And with the
No.
bow, I shoot that Matthews lift as well. More importantly, I think than like brand name with something like that is I'm curious, like, what is your poundage set at? Um, how do you set up your arrows? Things like that. Things
Okay.
like those little details that I don't even know.
Okay. Um, I'm I always, so when it comes to my bow, I just need something that's going to get me 273 feet per second. I've shot that trajectory or the, FPS for years. I know what the flight looks like. If I can keep the weight of the arrow coming out of whatever bow right in that range, then I'm good. So what that's done over the last few years is it's varied my arrow weight. I'm going to say anywhere from 15 to 21 grains. So generally speaking, like with the lift, it's on the slow side for the bow. So I had to drop some arrow weight. I came down from about 550 to the high 530s with that bow.
Oh,
My
okay.
draw didn't change. It's just a little bit less efficient, we'll say, when it comes to the heavier arrows. Again, aiming for the 273 with this bow I think I'm right at 536. Um, I'm shooting 267. So I got just enough
Gotcha.
change there not to bother me. Um, so I'm still comfortable with it. Arrow wise, I'm not a speed guy. I'm not a super high, heavy FOC guy. I'm a well balanced arrow guy. Um, I like to generally be in that 15 to 17% FOC. Um, you know, Anywhere from 550 to 500 at 273 feet per second, plus or minus on all those parameters. Pretty staunch at this point in terms of single bevel broadheads. Um, Depending
Hmm.
on the single bevel that I'm shooting, can some require bleeders, some don't require bleeders. Lately, I've been shooting a lot of the VPA, the Vantage Point Archery Omega 150s.
Man, I'm
Um,
glad to hear you say that. That is my broadhead of choice.
I've been shooting them for quite a while now, and they just perform. I mean, I've killed one of
Excuse
the
me.
Omegas. I've killed four different animals on. I sharpened it after. I think I sharpened it after the axis steer, so it was two hogs at axis. Honed it, killed a turkey. Um,
Nice.
I just, it just is what it is. If we're talking, I mean, we can get crazy into all that stuff with the arrow setup. Um, but I've been shooting where the heck is it? Testing.
One thing I like about that Vantage Point, that Omega 150,
Lay flat.
yeah, man, it's a straight flight too. And there is like no difference when I shoot with a practice tip and I switch over to that Omega, I have no flight difference at all. And
Yeah.
and that's a new thing. So, and I was going to
It's
tell you, everybody's all the elk around here, they're starting to head back, leaving winter range and whatnot, which means somebody's going to hit one on the highway. And I see it every year this time of year. I'm going to pull over. I'm going to take the front quarter off of that elk, and I'm going to bring it home, and I'm going to shoot through the shoulder blade, because the guys at Vantage Point were telling me, the owners, that you can, if you screw up your shot with this broadhead, it will penetrate that shoulder blade and still kill that elk. I like, for I not that I don't believe them. I just want to. It's one of those things I need to confirm with my own eyes, because I did that once. I hit an elk right there and it didn't penetrate at all. But not with
well,
that
you
broadhead.
understand why it does that with a single bevel, right?
No, explain it. Again,
So
I don't geek out with this stuff, man.
it's offset pressure, right? So a single bevel broadhead is the only broadhead. Okay, don't care what brand, if it's VPA, if it's Iron Will, Cayuga, whatever, Kudu Point. They're single bevel broadheads are the only broadheads that will continue rotation upon contact.
Really?
Every other broadhead hits, rotation stops, and you go into penetration. And what it is, it's physics. So you have the offset on your bevels, and it's pressure. So the offset pressure continues to rotate because it's pushing around, right? So as you're, let's see if I can.
So so you guys listening, he's showing me on the Zoom here. Oh yeah, I see what you're saying.
See what I mean?
Yep.
So as that offset pressure goes through, that broadhead continues to rotate to that pressured side from that flat or no beveled side. So it pushes into the bevel and continues rotation. So what you're getting as you're getting penetration is essentially a corkscrew, if you will, right? An inline corkscrew for a visual, mental
Mm-hmm.
visual, going through that animal, right? And I have seen, and it's shot placement too, but I've seen animals fall faster. You know where I judge it is hogs and my turkey.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I go out with a single bevel, especially a new one, I'm shooting, literally aiming at the shoulder plate to prove that this thing is going to spin. What happens when it hits the bone and the rotation's happening, it splits the bone. So if this is the shoulder blade, the broadhead comes in and it's literally doing this as it goes through that bone.
Hmm.
So it's not just hitting the bone and asking for energy to shove it through. It's hitting the bone, rotating, and then causing the split
Yeah,
as it
that makes
rotates.
sense. See, I never knew the science behind it like that. I'm glad you explained it because
Shoot a femur. If shoot a
I'm
femur
gonna.
at 30 yards, not even the shoulder blade. The shoulder blade is one thing. Shoot a femur, it will blow your mind
Okay,
because
I'm gonna.
it's going to go like this. It's going to split just like that.
Wheat.
Yeah.
Not that I want
Um,
somebody to hit an elk on the highway, but somebody's gonna, and it's usually like a trucker, and they just
mhm.
leave it, and I'll go take some. It's legal, so
Yeah.
I'll go take
Fine.
some quarters off of that bad boy and shoot them.
Yep.
I'll
Uh,
video it.
and then, bleeder, no bleeder. I mean, the bleeders on the single bever are icing on the cake, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't particularly care for the additional parts, we'll say, because a lot of them aren't fixed,
What do you
right?
mean? What do you
They're
mean the additional?
add-ons. Well, they're add-on pieces to it, right? So you'll have your broadhead, and then you'll have a collar that goes at the top of the ferrule between your broadhead
Oh
and
yeah,
the
yeah.
arrow, and that's what's holding the bleeders. Some of them have a slot for it. Some are kind of bolt on, if you will. And I've just seen issues with them. Some of it is due to the thickness of the bleeder that they're using on there, but single bevel, man, to me, you can't go wrong. I want as much devastation as I can,
Yeah,
and
that's what I say.
I would rather
Well,
see something not flop, right? Like, if I have two flap,
yeah.
it's likely that can, the blood can coagulate, mud get on it. If it's a bad shot or something like that, that seals up. Now, if I'm rotating going through there, it's less likely that all those points are going to line back up, and allow that, to stop the bleeding. So,
That makes sense. I always go by what Joe Gilly over at ElkBros. What he talks about is getting two holes. He wants to punch two holes. His goal. And so having that entry wound and that exit wound, he's right, man. That's gonna create a lot more carnage, and it's gonna create a lot better blood trail. And that's what I found with those single bevel heads, especially with that bleeder, is it doesn't matter if your bow is set at 55 or 72 pounds or whatever. I my bow set at like 70 pounds, and I switched to left-handed bow, by the way, and that's
how did
because
that go?
dude, it was super uncomfortable the first, I don't know, 10 or so shots. I did a whole episode on it, for those of you listening from like last fall sometime. But so I switched. I got the lefty Matthews lift and started shooting. Like the first time I drew back with my left arm, dude, I actually took my bow over to old Pete, over to Arrowworks in Clark Fork. I always like to throw him a shout out. He's probably 100 years old, but this guy's killed more animals with his bow than anybody else you'll ever meet. But anyway, I took it over there and I'm like, can you dial this down to like 60 pounds? And so I dialed it down to 60 pounds, and it took like 10 shots to even figure out how to shoot that way. But as I kept going, I started finding, like, by day 3, day 4, I forgot how to shoot the other way, and that was way more natural. And I tell you what, being left eye dominant, I am way deadlier with my bow by switching to left. So if any of you are struggling with that concept of, right eye, left eye dominance, for me, it made all the difference in the world. And I think that's, it's cost me a few bowls over the years.
It's funny that you say that, and I think it's more appropriate to really start looking at that as you get older, right? The
Mm-hmm.
right hand, left hand dominant thing is usually where we go. But then the older you get, as your eyesight starts to degrade, um, you got to have that dominant eye. I felt that immensely last year.
Did
Um,
you?
I saw some big, dude. I saw some big shifts in my eyesight, and I struggled with it to the point where I reined in my effective kill range with my bow. I said, you know
Mm-hmm.
what? This is going to be a 70-yard year. Anything, beyond 70 gets a pass if I can't get in there. And now just repetition, repetition, repetition. And less of the damn screen time without some kind of blue lens. Um, I'm back on money, buddy.
Good for you.
But I think it's very appropriate. And I thought about it, but I'm scared as hell to do it. I
Yeah.
was like, man, there's no way after 20 some odd years of the same thing that I can mentally, I just couldn't get past that. I'm like, yeah, that eye is going to have to fall out my head to get me to switch.
Hmm.
But I
Yeah.
think that was ballsy, but good on you for doing it, especially if that
Well,
it improved your groups.
it was a long time coming because I'd had a few circumstances where I hit a bull bad and I shouldn't have. And I've always kind of known that as like I'm really confident with a rifle. I don't have issues hitting things with my rifle. With my bow, I've never had that feeling of confidence. Even though, I can go in my backyard and I can nail the target all day long. But that's way different than when a screaming bull is coming in front of you. And that muscle memory, you just cannot achieve the same level of muscle memory shooting with your non-dominant eye that you can if you switch. And so now, like when I had that bull coming in last year, and like my sights went right to him. My pin went right to that bull, right where now I screwed it up because that bull was further away than I thought. So the arrow, it hit right at his feet and some deadfall. But if it like the flight of that arrow was perfect, man, that would have been a dead bull if I would have ranged him right. It was one of those things like my rangefinder wouldn't find the bull for some reason. It was so irritating. I'm still mad about it
Yeah,
because I
we
keep
could talk
talking
about
about it.
that too. It's a gear episode. I think there's too much dependence on them freaking things.
Yeah, man. So
So do
that's
you
bow
shoot?
stuff. Oh,
Do
go
you
ahead.
shoot rifle? You shoot rifle left eye?
I shoot left eye, but I hold it in my right shoulder. I shoot it right-handed. I shoot a right-handed rifle, but I lean and I've
So
done
you're
this
old
since I was
school.
a kid. Yep. And it's not that big of an adjustment where when you're drawn back with a bow, that adjustment to try to do that with your left eye, holding it right-handed, is
Oh,
way more dramatic than it is with a rifle. And that's how I learned in the Marines that, um, they're like, you're left eye dominant, but you're shooting right-handed. And so and I've done it ever since I was a kid, actually. But I dialed it in, and dude, I'm not the best shot you'll ever meet. I have like major limitations. But when I take a shot on an animal with a rifle, I haven't missed in years. And I haven't not killed that animal in
there
years.
goes your spring bear season, buddy.
Right now, I just totally jinxed that deal, didn't I? But
You just
but
killed
yeah,
spring
that's
bear.
just that's and I wanted that same level of confidence with a bow. I've never had it. Like you guys are always doing these archery challenges, and I'm like, man, before now, I wouldn't have gone to it. I'd have been embarrassed. I'd been like, okay, I just don't have that confidence. Now I would. I would totally go.
But you said that you don't go out and you weren't shooting a ton, right? And
Hmm.
I think we hear it all the time, and I think reps has a lot to do with that confidence build.
It does,
You
but
know,
I did back in the day. I shot and shot and shot and shot and shot. And I was doing way more shooting with my bow than I was with my rifle. And even with all that time, I still had these frustrations and a lack of confidence. Now I go out and I actually enjoy shooting my little 3D range in the backyard. It's fun for me, man. I have this elk target. and I set it up between all these trees so that like at 30 yards you have to shoot through these trees, and if you
Saw
screw
that.
that thing up, you screw that shot up, you're hitting the tree.
Yeah.
And
But that's the fun.
oh
That's the
man, it's so
fun.
much fun. Yeah,
That's a third size elk, or is it a full
it's a third size.
third size? Okay.
Yeah,
Because Joe was giving me guff the other day on a post, and I was shooting. I was in the back shooting, and he was like, I don't like those third size elk. I'm like, buddy, when you're at home in your backyard range and you're trying to move a full size elk by yourself,
yeah,
it's fun, right? And I like to vary my range,
it's not
right?
fun, but the other side of that guy is the third size elk. If you're shooting that elk and you're hitting those vitals every time at 30 yards, those vitals become a lot bigger on a real bull. And so I like to, it's that same concept, like softball players should practice with hardballs. They should practice with a regular baseball, because when they go and step up to that plate and that big old slow softball comes rolling past the plate, they're going to nail that sucker every time. And so I always kind of look for those little handicaps that'll enhance my performance, and that's one of the ways I do it. That I love that third sized elk.
What's funny is this, I'm Joe's the ElkBros Adventures archery coach.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Dude, well, I don't what I practice and what I preach to the guys is tough to hair. Like, I'm not looking for an 8-inch pie plate. Like, dude, it's tough to hair shooting, right?
yeah,
And if I can do tough to hair at, say my effective kill range is 60 yards, then I know I'm gonna dial it every single time
yeah,
inside a
man.
street, right? So it's like I
Here,
put a 2-inch Sharpie mark going one way,
uh
and then a
huh,
half-inch Sharpie mark going the other way, and that's my tough to hair, and that's what I'm aiming at now. Where you want to shoot in that kill zone, whether you're shooting in the triangle or like Joe likes, midline of body, 3 to 4 inches behind the crease, so he's getting that pass through on those lungs, kind of
yeah,
mid
yeah,
lung double pass through. And I really think, it's the old adage, right? No matter what the weapon is, right? Aim small, miss small type thing. And you really, in my head, you really have to dial that in. Cause like you said, that big old bull comes out, man. Whew, it goes to crap. And I bet you, if you
yeah.
did that, so one of the things that I do with the guys is, we'll do that. And then we start to judge range out to their effective kill range, whether it's 80 yards, 40 yards, but we use smaller objects to judge range, because
Hmm.
in my head, if I'm looking at this big old animal and the range is different and I still see this big giant animal and I'm not in the game because my adrenaline's pumping, I want something small to hone in on.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I need to shoot there. Okay, if it's a quarter, I know what that quarter looks like at that distance. Here it is. Um, so I agree. The third size targets are bitching, and they're awesome to move around by yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they are a much easier target to
Oh
move
yeah.
around. You got to see my little raccoon target, man. I'll take a picture and send it to you. He hangs in a tree, right? Like he's wrapping his arms around the tree, and you strap him to the tree. Dude, it's a stressful one to shoot at, because
Because
if
he's
you
on the
if you
tree all
miss,
day.
yeah, yeah, there goes your arrow.
Yeah.
Um, the last thing I'd like to throw in there about left eye, right eye dominant thing. A couple of years ago, I sent you a video of that bull that I was calling in, and he's coming
Hmm.
through that dark timber. Remember?
Right. Yeah, I
And I
remember.
released that arrow, and that arrow hit every freaking limb on the way between me and the elk and deflected.
Oh yeah. You
Remember
couldn't.
that?
Yeah.
So what happened was I was shooting right eye, and my right eye is not dominant, so I wasn't really focusing on anything besides the pin on my bow and that elk. Where if I take that same shot with my left eye, I would have seen those little twigs that deflected my arrow. And that's, I think, where a lot of people miss it when we're talking about right eye versus left eye dominance, is your eye focuses a lot better. And I would not have missed all those twigs, and that bull probably would be dead, because all I needed, if he would have taken like two more steps, he'd have been wide open. And so, anyway, that's the last thing I wanted to throw in there on that right eye
I,
versus left
I
eye
think
thing.
I think that's great in that discussion with equipment, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Let's
so
go
we were
to,
talking about, what do you want
oh,
to talk about? We were talking about the bow setup stuff, so we kind of went through that.
yep. Let's
Um,
go to chest harness. And, oh, go ahead. Did you have something?
yeah, I got one more thing to say
Okay.
on the bow side of it, right? We have a tendency to be overbowed. If I have a 70-pound bow, I got it cranked. In the case of this Matthews, for my draw length, I think I'm 73 pounds, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I can stand on my head and I could draw that bow no problem. When I put my 80-pound mods on that, when I put my 80-pound mods on my prime, it's a little bit more challenging. I can pull it back, but I don't want to sky draw. I want to be able to sit there. If I'm sitting in a chair or sitting flat on my butt, I should be able to draw that bow. So really, guys, gals, look at what you're drawing. It's huge. If you can't draw it well, if you can't draw it straight in and out, then you're probably a little bit overbowed. If you get in a scenario where, like Jim said, the bull has a couple more steps and you drew as that bull was moving, and now he held up a little bit and he's scanning, you're going to have to hold that draw. The heavier it is to you, the harder it's going to be hold. So
Mm-hmm.
just keep that in mind. And I see a lot of people, if you go to the range, Western Hunt Fest, we see people overbowed all the time
I
and just
would
crank
totally
down.
agree. I would
So
totally
that's
agree
always
with that. Yeah, no, that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up because I'm like you, man. I'm up in the 70s with poundage, but you don't have to be. And for me, that's what I like, and it's not a problem for me to pull that back. But let me tell you, I believe like my daughter's bow is tuned to the bare minimum for what the state of Montana requires, and I think that's 40 pounds. And she had no problem with a full pass through on a nice whitetail this last year. My buddy Gabriel, same thing. He took his wife out and she had it kind of minimumed out at the state requirement. I think most states are 40, 45 pounds, what they have to be set at in order to hunt with. And he's like, dude, no, she sauced this big bull with that drawn, only set at 40 or 45 pounds. I can't remember what his wife's, well, it was Montana. So I think it's 40 pounds. And so anyway, in order to kill a bull, you don't have to. It really is a personal preference thing. I think you and I are a lot alike. Where I like that speed. I like the way that my arrow flies when it's set heavier, and I just feel like it's pure carnage when it hits something.
Yep.
So
Oh, I
anyway,
agree. So
cool,
you were
man.
going to test harness.
Yeah, let's go to chest harness, man.
Where
Whether
do you
it's the
want to start? I've run everyone.
Well, I want to talk about what do you look for in a chest harness and what goes in your chest harness. What do you like? Like for me, I'm a simpleton, man. I have that Kafaru chest harness. I love it. My binos, the left pouch. I have my range finder, which I'm going to do away with because now I have these loopholed BX4 range HDs with the range finder in them. And on the right side of my pouch, I've got my wind checker, and that's it. What do you carry, and how do you carry that?
So I've been running, like I told you, the SIG Zulu 6s, the 12s,
Yep.
12 at 42s. So that's there. I do keep my rangefinder. I try not to use that up to about 60 yards as the canopy darkens, we'll say. And as I get older, my ability to range further than say 70 has really fluctuated quite a bit, and it's quite disappointing to me. Um, and then I do carry just the zipper pouch on there. I'll generally put my Garmin in reach, the mini, in
Mm-hmm.
that zipper pouch. And I
Is
always
that
carry a backup release.
a
So,
backup release in your
yeah.
pouch?
Yeah, in the little
Yeah.
side pouch. So my rangefinder is on with the magnetic flip lid on my right
Mm-hmm.
side, and then the zipper pouch is on my left side. So the Garmin backup release, and then the wind checker goes in the side, the little side pouch of the bino harness.
What bino harness do you have? Well, probably all of them.
Dude, I think
Which one
I
don't
think
I
I'm.
have?
Yeah, that's okay. That's a problem. I gave a couple away because Armando with the bow hitch was doing one of his giveaways, like a fire relief thing. So I gave him a
Uh-huh.
bunch of. But I've run everything, dude. I mean, I got my two favorites are the Kafaru harness, and I've been running marsupial gear like religiously for years.
Uh-huh.
Um, and honestly, what it boils down to for me on the harness front is the strap system. I don't like,
Yes.
big old bulgy straps on me. That 1 inch webbing is perfect. Um, the Sitka Mountain Optics harness, I ran that for years. I enjoyed it because of the straps on it. It doesn't have the big giant back pad and harness on the harness. Um, I tend to stay away from that. I was talking to the Kifaru folks. I don't know. Seems like it's been no, it was a while. It's been a while now. No, it was at the Hunt Expo, in Utah.
Oh,
They're in February, and they had the straps, the 1 inch webbing, and they're actually coming. I think they came out with their kind of harness system, the harness for the harness, if you will. Thicker shoulder straps, kind of that back padding webbing type deal. I'm not a fan of that. I know a lot
gotcha.
of people are, but I don't want to feel it on my pack. I've been running the same pack system for 6 or 7 years. I know how it feels. I know how it fits. I don't want, I just don't want it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
those are my two favorites. I really like the product that Jim puts out over at Marsupial. Quality,
I haven't seen
quality.
that one, but it's pretty
No,
good. It's a good one, huh?
oh, dude, people are going to get mad. It is the gold standard in bino harnesses, as far as I'm concerned. Um, they just do a phenomenal job. They stand by the product, and
Yeah.
and for me, like as I go through gear and try stuff out and spend a bunch of money I shouldn't spend, um, a lot of my decisions in terms of end user consumer are based on customer service.
Yeah.
And
I would
I've
agree with
just
that.
found that I've just found that dealing with marsupial gear has been phenomenal. And Kafaru's is great, dude. Some of the features on the Kafaru bino harness are freaking exceptional, right? The phone pouch on the inside, the way that the lid comes over, you can keep your phone covered.
And it
Um,
flips. Yeah.
yeah, it's a great harness. It's comfortable. Um, but I'm a creature of habit to a point. Like you said, if something works, why look to fix it?
Mm-hmm.
I'll test the gear out because I'm curious, but I'm gonna go back to, what works the best for me. And I think that's another key point, right? Is what works best for you.
Yeah.
Um, I could give a crap as we're giving advice on gear. I could give a crap of what some dude on a podcast or social says. It needs to work for my hunting scenarios. And this is School of September, but I hunt boomerang season, right? Like if you tell me that in the middle of August that we can go out and hunt something with boomerangs, I'm going out. So it needs to fit every single scenario.
Mm-hmm.
That is in front of me, and that marsupial gear, dude. Like I said, they've been solid. Shoot, I have one of their
Right.
harnesses probably 10, 12 years old.
I'm going to check that out. I'm going to check those out. I mean, like you, I really like this Kifaru harness. Mine has to, I have and I don't think you have a grizzly bear problem down in Colorado, but
Not yet.
I wear, yeah, yeah, give it a couple years, buddy.
That's another
Um,
podcast.
I have this Kifaru in my chest harness for this 10 millimeter, and that's a whole podcast in itself, guys. 10 millimeter versus there's so many different opinions out there on grizzly guns. For me, I haven't hunted where there weren't grizzly bears in well over a decade. So I really like my 10 millimeter. I run those G9 Grizzly rounds. In fact, I got a box of them sitting right here on the table in the studio, 145 grain. Um, and the thing is every bino harness has been kind of this hindrance as to where my pistol harness on my chest, because I like it right on my chest. That way, if a bear gets after me and I don't have time to draw that pistol, but he's got me on the ground, I could still get to it because it's on my chest. And in fact, I got that.
To the point, then marsupial was the first one that I know of to come out with the molly attachment for their pistol harness.
See, that would be enticing for me, because I have this black point and
And you got
chest
to wear a
harness.
behind harness.
Yep, and so
Yeah.
I wear that, and then I put my Kufaru vinyl harness right over the top of that, and I
Oh,
could still get to it, but every once in a while that strap could maybe fall down and get in the way. So I'd be interested in that chest harness that you're talking about, if
yeah.
it's
So
got that built-in pistol case or
yeah, with
whatever.
marsupials, they have Somali webbing on the bottom of the harness, and their holster has molly webbing on the top. You thread it through, snap it in, and you slide your pistol in.
How do you spell that, marsupial? Never even heard.
R S
MAR.
P A L. Marsupial. PIAL.
Mar MARS.
UPIAL.
Oh, I found it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna check that out. I'm gonna because I like what you said about whatever you meant with boomerang, but your gear needs to work with all different seasons. Because I'm a guide, and that's so true. Some things don't work in November that do work in September, but a lot of the stuff like my chest harness, I don't want to swap all that out. I get real comfortable with where it is, especially with something like a safety pistol. If you're hunting grizz country, I don't want to be like wondering if what setup I have I'm gonna have the same reaction time if I'm used to wearing it a certain way. The ultimate turkey chest pack. Oh man, they have all sorts of cool stuff.
Oh
Okay,
yeah.
I'll check that out later.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
really, there was a period, and I will qualify this. There was a period where I stopped running marsupial, and I was hunting Central Coast, California, middle of the summer, 110 degrees, super dry and dusty, and it was before Jim come out with the full lid. So the
Oh.
sides would be open on it, and my lens would just keep dust on them. So
Yeah.
there
I
was a
had one like
period
that.
yeah, there was a period when I was hunting those bucks in there where I was like, well, I got to do something with this. Um, and tried out Mystery Ranch, FHF, the Sitka optics harness.
Hmm.
And then as soon as they enclosed it, I went right back. So that should say a little bit of something.
Later, can you after we're recording, can you send me what that system was you were talking about
Oh,
with
absolutely.
the pistol attachment?
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, so you've got your binos, you've got your wind checker, you've got your Garmin in there. Did you say rangefinder? You keep your
Yeah. I have
rangefinder in your chest runner.
my rangefinder house there.
So
Yeah.
talk to us a little bit about what binos what you run those SIGs or that SIG pair of binos.
Sig, yeah, dude. Sig Zulu 6. It's the 12 by 42 image stabilization binos.
Okay,
Um,
they've got the stabilizer in them. Yep. I
Dude, so a friend of mine works for Sig, and they were at a shoot, and I was up talking to him, and I'm looking. I'm like, man, why do these binos look so weird? Look like Star Wars. Remember when Luke Skywalker on Star Wars he's scanning the desert, and that's kind of what it reminded me of,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
I'm like, hell, and I pick them up, and I'm like, okay, they're all right. And then Anthony walks up, and he goes, dude, flip the switch, and I like this, and I flip the switch, and I started, and I'm like, oh my God, like this is unbelievable. And I mean, I went through, every bit of them, from the eights, the tens, the 12s, all the way up. And I'm watching aspen tree, free hand, two hands, one hand. And I'm watching the leaves on this aspen do like this while
Really?
everything else around it is perfectly stable.
Hmm.
I was like, dude, it's a game changer. I looked at my wife, and she was over in our friends had a booth set up, and I looked at her and I said, come here. And then her and Ephraim's wife come over, and I go, I'm buying these. And he says, not today. And I said, okay, but I'm buying these. And we came back, and I immediately bought them suckers before she forgot that I asked for permission. um, but I honestly, she won't even touch her binos now.
Yeah.
Like if we're glassing in the back, we got elk and deer coming down or something, and we're glassing, like we're sharing, because I know she's not going to buy a set of them for herself. She
Hmm.
jack mine every time she wants to look at something. Now it's night and day, dude. You can never hold another pair of binos and look at them the same. I know folks, love some of the higher end glass. But I just, that image stabilization, dude, I can't get my head wrapped around leaving that.
Yeah.
It's much of a game changer, and I spend a lot of time on the glass.
Oh, me too. Yeah, me too. And I'm a loophole guy, so I've got those BK4 range HDs, and they're a game changer for me as well, like those ones are for you.
Sorry,
Uh
loophole. I'm on Huntsman, but I mean,
no,
not.
I mean,
I have a ton of loophole optics. I have a
oh
ton,
yeah,
right? And I
yeah.
have vortex. I got loophole. You know, I got Burris. When I put my eyes in those SIGs and I flip that switch, it flipped the switch, literally,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I was like, there's no what's the worst thing, dude? And you're sitting there and your arms are sore and you're glassing because who the hell carries a tripod? Well, maybe recently, because of some of the tripods, Tricer, have come out where they're super lightweight, um, and they're not hard to pack, right? And it's not this additional crazy weight, this heavy head and whatnot, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So you can set them on and you can get that stabilization from a tripod on regular glass. But if I don't need to carry that into the field with me, like I'm not going to carry it. And
Yep.
I'd carry an extra battery in that pouch as well.
Oh, in your chest harness,
Yeah.
bino
So I
harness.
keep,
Yeah.
yeah. So, those little like 7-Eleven aspirin or Tylenol
Yep. Yep.
bottles, the white ones. I put a double A in there and I put the top on it and I throw that sucker in there.
There you go.
It's a good little carry holder. So
Yeah, that really is. It keeps the weight out of your pack too. I
yeah, and
like
it
it.
keeps it at the ready and it keeps it dry. Um, so yeah, nothing against, the swirls and all that. And dude, this is contradictory to some of what, some other folks will say. Like swirls are great. It's remarkable to look through,
Mm-hmm.
but I would trade the stabilization for the glass quality at this point. There's no way, no how.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. And again, everybody's got their thing. And Loophole understands that this is a podcast, and I've been a Loophole guy my entire life. Honestly, it was crazy when that sponsorship came down the pike here because I've always been that way. But it's okay to have other things that people are interested in. I do like that stabilization aspect, but. And the reason why I brought up the bino thing, because a lot of people don't think about binos. I've got like my cousin Andrew doesn't even take his binos out during September. And for me, that's crazy because I think that it's the importance of having a good set of binos in September. It doesn't matter if you've got a bugle from across a canyon and then you can maybe make out some elk and check them out, see what the bulls look like, whatever. That's great. It's when you're closer, dark timber,
Yes,
you're
sir.
you're side hilling through some darker timber or through a drainage and man, if you are walking through that timber and you look down, you've got fresh tracks, there's maybe a fresh rub off to your left and some elk crap all over the ground still steaming. You need to take those binos and just watch those woods in front of you. Don't use your bare eyes. Take a few steps and stay in the shadows and use those binos, and you will be surprised at the elk you're going to pick up all of a sudden before they pick up on you. So
Yep.
anyway, that's
You
my
catch
two
that
cents.
that's perfect, right? You catch the tip of the tine or that
Yep.
little flicker of the ear that you wouldn't see until you blew him out of there,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you blow him out because you got too close and didn't know he was there, all you're seeing is nuts and butts. So no, I agree 100%, man. And that's a big use. Last year we were getting our butts kicked. We wanted to get up high. We knew the elk were going down. We just didn't know where they were going. Too many elk to just charge into that timber. So we got up high and we started glassing and looking for where they were bedding. Found their water, found their beds, and that made all the difference in the world.
So yeah, absolutely. I think that's a critical tool. Honestly, I think it's foolish to go hunting during September archery season without a good set of binos. So
I mean,
um,
it's another tool, right? I mean,
it's a great tool.
you want tools that are efficient and serve a purpose. And I think with dual purpose, if you will, and that ability to spot them in that dark timber or spot them off in the distance, I think it's a disservice to your hunt.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. So, okay, now let's switch to calls. Obviously anybody that's listened to this show knows that I'm a big Phelps guy. I have been for many years. I carry, um, generally speaking, when I leave my truck, I've got multiple Maverick reeds in my reed pouch, and I've got the Renegade bugle tube, and that's it. That's all I use for everything. I've been using the same stuff for many years. Again, it goes back to why change what works for me. I say all that because I don't want sponsors to get uptight about me if somebody's got a different opinion on whatever calls they're using. So I'm a Phelps guy, and just because Guy might have a different type of call, doesn't mean it's going to change my mind. So walk me through your calls,
Well,
brother man.
so yeah, I love Jason. I love Dirk. I love the calls they produce. Charlie's call is the favorite in the Phelps line for me. So
You like
go
that
Charlie,
purple
the
Charlie
best guy,
Smith call? Really?
dude. Dude, the best bull sounds for me. Okay, the
Yeah.
way my style of calling, the best bull sounds produced are with that call. Period. I can
Huh.
cow call with it.
I struggle with
It,
that one.
well, but it's that thicker, it's that
Oh
thicker
yeah,
rate.
it's a super thick
What is
lake
Charlie's
frequency.
call? 5,000ths? You know what I
Yeah, so
mean?
yeah.
And I mean, generally speaking, most companies are stopping at the 4 mark. Um, so if we're talking Phelps, that's exactly where I'm at. I've blown Jason's, ran Dirk's red for years. And then I would say second in that line is the pitch black. Um,
That is a good one.
I really, really enjoy the pitch black, right? The 2 and the 3, you could do everything with the 2 and the 3. I think that is probably Jason and I talked about that on my podcast some years back, and I'm like, dude, what, and he said it, we kind of missed the mark on the promotion because me and Dirk with his pink and red shit, go back and forth so much. But no, I think that those are phenomenal calls. The last 2 years, 3 years, I've been running Native by Carlton. And it really fell in love with the line. I really like the history in the industry, if you will.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
With Native, and I got an opportunity um, with Wayne. I think that was 2018, 2019. I mean, he's here. You go. Um, I haven't been hunting elk for a terribly long time. I think 2018 was my first season, so maybe it was 2017. And Wayne, I went and talked to him at one of the expos, and he handed me my first call and said, "This is how you make sounds on that diaphragm, right?"
Mm-hmm.
And then been working with Mark a little bit with the podcast and whatnot. So been running Native. Um, that's my call from Native. That's my custom.
You have a custom call, like a Western Contours call. Did I say at the beginning that you are the host of the Western Contours podcast? I think I got sidetracked by your Western Fly Company.
I don't know.
So
You gave me a shout out and you asked me on your School of September, so it doesn't matter what AIDS or what bullshit you push.
for those of you listening,
Um,
if you don't know, Guy is the host of the Western Contours podcast. And if you don't listen to it, you're missing out. Sorry. So tell me about that diaphragm you got there. Is that literally
this
like a
is
Guy Duplantier?
yeah. This is my cow calls. I have two. I have the
Cool.
cow call, my bull call. The bull call is a little thicker on the latex, tighter on the stretch. My cow calls, I like really, really soft cow calls. So I'm pretty light on the latex, pretty light on the stretch.
Mhm.
I generally, for me, medium frame is best. And that's another thing to talk about with diaphragms, right? I don't care if it's Jason, I don't care if it's Slayer, excuse me, I don't care if it's Phelps, if it's Slayer, if it's Native. Um, it's again what works best for you. When you put it in your mouth, there's going to be some fit issues here and there. And I've found that a lot of guys are going after the popular call, whatever that is, whatever sends them that way,
Yeah.
whatever their buddies are using, whatever they've seen, and don't necessarily understand that the fit needs to work with them. I have a friend, Whitney Tremmel. She's another podcaster, Wild Strength Podcast. Shout out to Whit. We're at Hunt Expo. She walks up and she says, "Hey, I'm struggling with diaphragms. What do you think?" I'm a native guy, and walked her over to Jason's booth and said she needs some, small pallet calls. Jason has the trim down tape. A lot of times what we'll see is the frame size change, but the tape doesn't change. And that's never made any sense to me in the call world, that you can take the frame and shrink it down and say, okay, smaller pallet people, narrower pallet people, here's a smaller frame, but then the flipping tape is the same size.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as you cut that freaking diaphragm, trying to get it smaller to fit in there, because now you're creased here, you're creased there, it's not the same. You're never going to cut it perfectly like the die cuts it, right? So
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to change it.
again, what works for you? Go buy one of this call brand, one of this call brand, one of this call brand, and call, record yourself, get on YouTube or get on, Paul's app, Paul Medell, listen to his sequences and whatnot and his natural elk sounds, or Chris Rowe, whomever, and compare how you sound with each one of those diaphragms,
Mm-hmm.
and then go from there, right? Because Jim uses Phelps and I use native and I've used Phelps. Man, you can go in to Wally World or to Cabela's and pick up a Primos, and start blowing on it, right? If it works for
Mm-hmm.
you, it works for you. And there's a ton of good call companies, dude.
There really
There
are.
is,
There's some great. That's the nice thing with today's day and age. There's competition, and it makes all these companies. And I don't care if we're talking about bino harnesses or diaphragm calls or packs or whatever. That competition is really helping these companies push the envelope and making better gear.
and it's interesting when you talk about calls, because people look at it and go, okay, it's a piece of tape with a piece of metal with a piece of latex.
Yeah,
How much could go into that, right? But the texture of the latex, with the thickness of the latex and the stretch they put on a certain call, if you're a high tongue pressure person, one of those ain't going to work. If you're
mm-hmm.
a airflow person, one of those ain't going to work. If you're heavy on both, man, you got some issues, right? So, and that's kind of why I lean to Charlie's call with my bull calls, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm heavy on my tongue and I'm heavy on the diaphragm, and I want to be the Big Mac daddy, and that screwed me up more times than it's helped me. Believe me.
Well,
I've had herd bulls run the other way.
That doesn't matter, man. I've had herd bulls run the other way when I'm sounding like this puny little spike screaming at them.
Yeah.
So it's super elk dependent. But the other thing I throw in there with diaphragm calls too is keep in mind, guys, that if you're doing it right, you have that call in your mouth almost all day long. If you're cruising through the timber and you're making your calls and you're doing that, and I don't mean literally, you never take it out of your mouth or anything. That's not what I'm talking about. But I'll go hours with that thing in my mouth. And you want to make sure that your mouth reacts to that okay. Like if it doesn't fit your palate right, it's going to kind of rub the top of your mouth raw or your tongue or something like that, and it's going to start hurting after a while, which will in turn start affecting your calls. And so by trying out a bunch of different types of calls and having a bunch of different diaphragms in your mouth, it's going to help. It's going to help you understand what fits you the best and what gives you that advantage of you really don't want to take that call out of your mouth unless you really have to. Now
I would say if you're running around the woods like that, I don't care who's making the call. If it's too hard on the saliva for too long, when you go to blow on that thing, it's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a little funky. Carry, have a neck pouch, some kind of lanyard or something where that thing gets some air and dries a little bit, and flop the other one out. Make sure that both of them, all three of them, four of them, whatever, are broken in, and you're not blowing on them for the first time. And don't keep them in the truck.
Yeah,
and everybody says,
I always say that
Copenhagen or dipping messes with them. And dude, I had some elk in the backyard the other day, and I grabbed my call and I grabbed Charlie's, and I was out there calling, dude. I got cope in my mouth all the time, dude. So I'm calling BS on that.
Yeah.
I know the call guys are like, yeah, keep on chewing, guys, because you're wearing that latex out faster. I just haven't seen it. I don't know if if there's some kind of acidity that builds up with the dip.
I do those little they're called Alps pouches, and it's like a Zin.
The Alps. Yeah. How are they?
Oh my gosh, man, they're way good.
Right?
Yeah. And they're way good. They last a way lot longer than like a Zin does too, by the way.
Man, I'm glad to hear you say it, dude. Because I've been trying to limit it, and I can't do the Zins. They're flipping so dry, dude.
Yeah, those things suck.
I need like a 14.
Yeah.
I always got.
I actually with the Alps, man, I just do the 3s even, and that those are, for me, they taste better and they last a lot. Like, okay,
dude, I'm getting some.
When I go to church, I put one in right when we get to church, and by the time I leave church an hour and a half later, it's still
Still going.
like I just put it in. It's
Dude, I got to
yeah.
chew on them damn Zins.
I
And
know. I know
I,
those things suck, and
I,
they're a bunch of leftist nut jobs that run that place.
yeah,
So
I
I
didn't
switched to
realize
the
that.
Alps.
I was listening to Tucker, and he started talking about it, and I looked at him, and you know how that goes. You look at something and you
Mm-hmm.
don't pull the trigger, and then I heard him say that, so I stopped even getting the Zins, and they're just dry as all get up. So there you go. There's School of September on the packing the lip.
Yeah, yeah. There you go. In fact, I just texted my wife to see if she'd bring me my Alps or pouches. I left them in the kitchen when we started recording. So,
I always got a lip pull. So, but yeah, man, I mean, the diaphragms, it goes back to it, right? It's what works for you. And I would really
mhm.
suggest that folks go and, try out a couple brands, dude. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and name them all, but I would say in my head, Phelps, native by, and I did Phelps first because I love you guys and I love Jim. Um, Phelps, native by Carlton, um, Wapiti River, Slayer. I think those are all good places to start.
Yeah,
I really, Wapiti River. So Travis is out of Canada, and he's not very well known here. But one of the things that I've noticed with folks that are using his calls, their range of calling is greater than when they were on someone else's.
really.
And the reason I think this is Travis has his dome sits up a little bit higher. So your tongue isn't going up as high
Mhm.
to get some of the sounds, right? But as you get higher into the dome, pitch and things change, and you're able to create more through one diaphragm in terms of range. And I really think that's what, again, this is bro science. My use of them, that's what I've found
Bro
with his
science.
call.
I like that
Mhm.
bro science.
And then he
Here's some bro
notches.
science. Here's some bro science. Those guys that are saying don't keep them in your truck. I just pulled out. I have a Maverick in my truck is always in my truck, and the elk are still packing headgear up here. They haven't dropped yet, and so there's this big meadow by my place, and this giant. I mean, well, it's giant because I haven't seen a big bull like that for a few months, right? It's mostly little raghorns and spikes running around, and this really nice 6x come strolling out in the field the other day, and I pulled out my Maverick. It's been in my truck since hunting season, and I made perfect cow sounds with it. And
Heck
so,
yeah.
whatever. I just I keep them in one of my empty Alps pack cans.
Yeah. I
There
got
you
lip
go.
protection.
Yeah, yeah.
So we
Offers a
were
little
we were in
extra.
Texas. Was it last year I shot that axis? No, it was the year before.
Thanks,
So
man.
23, me and my business partner with Western Hunt Fest, Efren, went down to Texas for his birthday to a buddy's property he manages there. And he thanks, wifey. I
She
saw the
brought my
thumbs up.
Alps, man.
Yeah, buddy. And he kills an axis first thing in the morning, right? And I'm like, son of a gun. I'm like, no way, dude, right? Like you're not gonna outdo me here. And the axis are just or they're bellowing like crazy.
Really?
So oh
That was
dude,
in
it's
Texas? Is that what did you say
oh
Texas?
dude. Yeah,
Really?
it was so cool. So I'm like, look, if the bucks are talking, then the does have to respond in some way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sitting there in the tree stand, and I get on, pull out YouTube, and Axis doe sounds, and they make this. I call it a chirp whistle, and I'm like, oh, dude, I could totally do that, right? I can do that. I just need a diaphragm. So I call Alec, and I'm like, dude, you got to come get me. I need to kill an axis deer. I can't have this day go by since Ephraim killed his. So we shoot over to the bunkhouse. I open my truck, dude, and I'm tearing my bin apart, no diaphragm. I'm looking in the center console, nothing. Get in the back, and I look in the back of the seat, nothing, and I just go under the seat, dude. I know I got diaphragms everywhere, and I find a diaphragm sitting between the rail and my center console
Uh-huh.
under the front seat. So I grab this thing out and I look at it, dusty. I'll get up. I put it in my mouth, soaked it a little bit. Listen to the sound again. Did it. And I'm like, okay, dude, take me back out. Go back out. And I got these 5 axis deer, they're bellowing. And I didn't get in the tree. I made a makeshift line real quick and pulled this diaphragm out. And I threw it over. There's a tree line about 70 yards to my 10 o'clock. Did it once. Okay. Went this, put the diaphragm back in the bino harness, and I looked up. Oh, it works, dude. I drew back.
He was standing there.
Axis deer's dead. I mean, it was like instantly. And the diaphragm was fine. And I was like, I'm in. Like, I outdid you, dude. Yours walked by chance. I called my axis deer in. Super cool.
See, you called Joe Gilia and let him know. I just listened to his by the way, you guys listening, if you like talking elk, let me pull this up so I don't screw up the name of it, first of all. But he was saying he keeps his diaphragms like in the fridge and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I don't he takes way better care of stuff than I do, clearly. What I was saying, guys, if you get on that ElkBros podcast, blue collar elk hunting, you need to listen to Archery Elk Game Plan Solo with Coach Part 1 and the next episode Part 2. Those things are solid country gold right there. Really good episodes. He goes into great detail. But anyway, I was listening to him. He was talking about, I keep my diaphragm in the fridge and this and that. And man, I felt like a pile of crap. I don't do any of that.
It has nothing to do with that diaphragm and has everything to do with that being a cheap SOB.
That probably is true.
If that dude could figure out how to split a penny to feel like he had more money, he would split it if he could, dude.
We're both going to hear from him after this one. Bro. Huh? We're both going to hear from him after this one.
I'll text him right now and tell him the same daggone thing. We were talking the other day about a moving target that we're going to have at camp and trying to figure that stuff out for.
Is that one of those the moving target? What is that company? I just had him on the show. He makes those ones that's like a track.
There's a few of them. There's a few of them out right now.
Yeah.
And we're talking about the system and Joe's, I can't believe that they cost this much. He's going to figure out how to make one of them suckers out of a DeWalt battery, I'm sure.
Oh gosh. Yeah, he probably is. There's going to be a DeWalt battery and some bubble gum and one of his refrigerated diaphragms, and it's going to go around in a circle.
Yeah, but it will not be bubble gum, dude. That dude is meticulous. I mean, his attention to detail, for as frugal as he is,
he is.
His house, and you look at his house, and then he tells you that he built the house with his 2 hands and his workshop with his 2 hands. The bathroom remodel that this dude just did, impeccable.
Something else, huh?
Yeah, dude.
Interesting.
Dude. And that skill set has come not because, well, some of it is because he had to, but because he ain't spending no damn money he don't have.
I love it. I love dudes like that though. They can make, he's not wanting for anything, he just makes it happen. It's just, it's such a cool concept.
Dude, Joe is one of the greatest men you'll ever meet.
I know. I just talked to him the other day. I love Joe.
Yeah. He would give you the shirt off his back and his fucking pants and belt. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Dude. So, okay, we got way off topic here. Let's move into your pack, man. I'm curious what everybody's got the basics in their pack, right? Everybody's got their oh, maybe they don't. Bullshit. But let's cover what the basics are real quick. Everybody's got some game bags. Everybody's got a first aid kit. Maybe a set of rain gear. Yeah, in their pack.
Okay, I thought you meant the brand or the manufacturer of the pack.
Yeah, no. I have multiple packs of multiple manufacturers. I'm kind of a mystery range guy, if we're being honest. I like the IA4 is a really good pack.
See, and I would argue, what kind of loads are you putting on the MR packs? Because I used to love them, but I can't carry a whole mule deer out. I can't carry a half an elk out without getting my ass.
Yeah, that's because you're a sissy.
Yeah, but no, I'm saying I could do it, but it hurts.
Yeah,
It's pretty.
I think that that is like what we were talking about with different diaphragms. I think that that is applicable to packs.
Mhm. Oh,
And so
absolutely,
like
absolutely.
I was just talking about the day pack that episode, and I was talking a lot about the Eberly stocks. The Eberly stock is an inexpensive pack that has an excellent fit on my body. I love the Eberly stocks as well.
Mhm.
The Mystery Ranch fits me a little bit better, and I could pack a Dodge Ram out with that thing.
On a
Um,
single.
the IA4 is a one of my favorite either day or long overnighter packs that I've ever had. But when it comes to packing a load, it's terrible for me. And yeah, man. And
See,
I don't
I
know I don't
think
know if now I want to say in the IA4 defense, it might be user error, but it's really difficult for me to get that quarter strapped in there and not have my back killing me by the time I get to the truck. And
well,
so I think it just depends on like your body type. Obviously, I'm a Greek god in a way.
I can see, dude.
If
Look at that. Oh,
yeah,
damn.
right. I mean, you've seen me, right? I mean, come on. I'm really, really handsome, six pack, nothing. Um, but no, I do. I think a lot of it is just body type.
Yeah, exactly. Said
I have an interesting, my body's been pretty beat up from the Marine Corps infantry and packing those old Molly and Alice packs over all those miles over the years, and so anyway, that's my point. But what I'm really interested in is what's in your pack because of like your passion for gear, right? And so walk
okay,
us through what's in your pack, and
okay.
let's stick to like a day pack.
Okay, I don't. Okay, so my day pack is a 2K, right? So
The
my day.
initial ascent for or 2K
Yeah, I
is that
mean, okay, we
okay?
don't even have to. We will talk about initial ascent. And I'll tell you why I think it's better than the other ones. But
No,
anyway,
that's fine. Yeah. You're
the
totally.
the reason that I do that is because I'm always prepared to be out there longer than a day. Now that's if that's out of necessity or if it's out of something happened, emergency, safety, whatever. I don't like the day pack that doesn't get me home to mama and
Hmm.
the next time I see my grandkids, right? So that's always been my theory. I had a couple of situations that taught me that lesson. And I won't go without it, right? So with the IA system, that 2K is the smallest bag that I could put on there that I can stuff, a day load of stuff in there. And I'll have some room left over, of course. But if we're talking, a day trip, I have a tarp. I generally will carry
Is it the
my
Quest Hex Fly tarp?
I don't carry that one if it's a day trip. I carry the mountainside. It's just smaller.
Yeah, let me go back and find that.
And it just keeps me it provides me some shelter if I need it.
Did you say the
It's just
mountainside? The mountainside
yeah, the mountain.
utility?
Yep. Um, and I can use it for a multitude of things. Shade if I need it. I've wrapped up in it, and hunkered down with my puffy and my beanie on and used it as my sleeping bag.
That thing's
Um,
cool. Okay.
and throw quarters on it, if I get lucky enough and lay something down, open it up and, throw everything on there and keep it clean while I'm doing the brutal work.
Hmm.
Uh, my first aid kit has to be in there. I used to make my first aid kits, but I believe it's My Medic. They started. I'm really happy to see someone cater to the hunting demographic that doesn't shy away from us, that shows up to our expos and whatnot. And they have a couple of really good kits. Um, I forget the name of the one I run. It's about yay big
But if they
for the
jump on
people.
like a your My Medic website kind of thing,
Yeah, yeah,
they'd get it. I use
yeah.
those Jimmy kits.
Mhm.
But the My Medic, I've heard of those ones. They're pretty good.
I like it for the price,
Hmm.
especially because it's something that has to be replaced over time, right? Like you can't have a first aid kit and then have a ton of stuff sitting there, um,
Yeah.
and think that it's good as it was the day you bought it. That one is called the one I have is the no, it's not it. I thought it was the MyFac. Um, but that's not it.
I
Anywho,
like how we're
so
both on these websites. I like it right now. I'm looking at the Western Fly Covers website, and I've got that mountainside utility.
yeah,
I kind of like that other one better, though.
it's TFAC. It's the TFAC micro trauma kit from my medic. That's the one I have.
What is
Everything you
that?
need.
Why do you like that one? What's in it?
Everything I need for a backcountry injury that I can self administer. The tourniquet's super easy to use in it. Um, Probably one of the easier tourniquets to use. Um, it's small, it's compact. You can get carried away with the medical, right? I mean, I've seen guys pull out freaking saline, a saline bottle, and I'm like, what
Oh
the
yeah.
is that doing in the backcountry, buddy? Um,
Can I tell you
you
a
got to get
little? Can I tell you a little side story about saline
absolutely it's your
bottles?
podcast.
It's not even saline. It's a IV bag.
Mm-hmm.
We carried them in Iraq, and our water truck got blown up or something. So we didn't have water for like 3 days. We started drinking those IV bags.
Yeah.
It tastes like drinking out of the Pacific Ocean.
Mhm.
It was
Yeah.
terrible, but it worked, I guess, because I didn't
In that
die.
situation, yeah, I was gonna say in that
I've always wanted to
situation,
tell that story that we drank our
that
IV bags because we'd ran out of water.
that does not surprise me considering that situation over there. Um, yeah, I like it. You know, it's kind of the kit built for the backcountry, if you will, right? Firearm type trauma kit makes sense.
Uh-huh.
Self administer, easy to get to, nice and compact, fits in that, that 2000. And it has everything I feel like I need. I do throw extra zip stitches in to any first aid kit I get.
Oh, I love
Um,
those zip stitches. Those things are
oh, dude,
money.
you got to have them, right? I mean,
Yeah.
super easy to use. You got to practice a couple times to get it right. But I think they're huge in the back country, front country, whatever. You could be processing, and especially with a lot of the um, RBK knives. Um, I think it's essential to have something that you can close that up with, right? Because if
Oh,
you get a bad
absolutely.
cut with those replaceable blades, I mean, you need stitches, and that's the fastest stitch you're going to get.
Yep.
The consideration for me is, can I stitch this, air quote, stitch this up, and continue to get this valuable resource off the mountain? Now, if I don't have a zip stitch or something like that, it's questionable, right?
Hmm.
On whether or not I could do it. People say crazy glue, a little bit of tape or gauze or something like it over it. The problem with that is now I got to go and they have to open that wound back up, um, kind of painfully when you put, crazy glue and whatnot on it.
Yep.
Zips, man, they peel that sucker off and they can stitch it right up. So I get to
Do
complete
you
my process.
do you carry like a little thing of Neosporin or something? Because like
Hmm.
for me, one time I cut my arm pretty good. It was actually on a broadhead, just screwing around in between hunts or whatever. Um, I put a little Neosporin on that. I pinched it real hard, let it bleed a lot to get anything that may have gotten in there out. I'm not a doctor, so that's my disclaimer for anybody listening. This thing needed stitches. Like it needed stitches. It was a perfect laceration though. So I bled it out for a sec, threw some Neosporin on top, zip stitched it, and I went on my merry way. I still have a
Yeah.
little scar, but like I think in today's society of everybody's got to go to the doctor for everything, people would have a stroke if they knew how deep that cut was, and I didn't go get it stitched up. But I didn't want to leave the mountain,
Yeah. No,
so
that's what I'm saying too. That's part of what I was saying is, if I throw that zip stitch on, and maybe, depending on the laceration, I have to put a pair of, rubber latex gloves on or whatnot over it to keep it clean. So I keep a pair just for that, but I want
yeah,
to keep processing that animal and finish the mission. We're
yeah,
on the mission to kill the animal and get the meat off the mountain. If I cut myself bad enough and I look at that and I got to booger out with that, by the time I get back, what's done with that meat, especially in September, right? I mean, we're generally
exactly.
speaking, we're high temperatures, and now I've just wasted that resource, man. I don't. At the end of the day, that's what it's about, right? It's filling the freezer and making sure that we sound so cliche when I say it, that we honor that animal and
Yeah,
use
no,
every.
it's true. Does
um,
that does that first aid kit that you're talking about, would that meet Joe Gillia's standard price wise, or is he going to make
yeah,
his own kit? Would it?
no, he did really good last year for all the coaches and guides, and he bought everybody first aid kits and took some advice. And I mean, he went as
Good.
far as a legit kit and putting Sammy splints in it and things of that nature. So I think especially with clients, I think it's absolutely necessity. Now, what I will say about any first aid kit, whether you build it, you buy it, you find it, steal it, whatever, you better know how to use the items in said first aid kit, or
Yeah.
they're as useless as a hole in the head, right? Like, if you can't use the zip stitch when you're on the mountain, it's not going to do you any good. You got to waste a couple. They're expensive to waste. It's hard to waste them, but you need to practice, and know how to use your tourniquet. You know, there's guys that are walking in the woods without a tourniquet, and I'm like, dude, what are you doing? You know,
Yeah, that's
I can count
crazy.
on one hand 5 people that I personally know that if they didn't have a tourniquet, they would be dead.
Mm-hmm.
One of them was last turkey season, last spring turkey. So a year ago, almost to the day. Um, so yeah, I mean, that's my safety spiel.
Yeah.
I always carry my puffy. As of late, I've been running 2.0 gear.
You carry a puffy jacket even in September?
Oh, dude, where do you think the poncho and the flies and Western fly cover was born? It was born in September,
Mm-hmm.
chasing bulls, right? And you know, you're at 10,000 feet and it's 70 degrees, and then 3 hours later, you're getting snowed on. And we
Yeah.
were out. This was in 2021. I'm hammock camping, right? I got my hammock set up. It's a beautiful night sky. I'm looking up, man. I'm all cozied up in my gear there, and don't have a tarp or nothing over me. And 3, 4 a.m. in the morning, I wake up and I'm freaking out, and I got 4 inches of snow on me. We got
Oh, wow.
15 inches of snow mid-September. Okay. No warning, had no idea where it came from. And in 3 days, and that's where Western Fly came from. It was
Huh.
like we were not prepared for this, because I get
Mm-hmm.
people all the time. What I need a poncho in September for, dude, it's 16 ounces of assurance, right? Like, I don't want to go back to camp. I don't want to.
The poncho makes great sense, but a puffy coat, I don't know if I've ever carried one in September.
Oh, well,
But
but what's the scenario, right? So
yeah.
if I'm out on my back, right? Camp is in my back, and I don't have the luxury of going to a trailer. If that's the scenario, I'm in the back country, 7, 8 miles. How am I going to get, if I'm getting back, by the time I get back, I'm soaking freaking wet. You know what I mean? So there's
Mm-hmm.
freezing cold, whatever it is. The puffy that I've been running, the Clement Puffy by 2.0, I think the thing weighs somewhere in the 20 to 25 ounce range, if it's that heavy.
I mean, this is one of the reasons why I wanted to get you on too, man, because like, that kind of stuff, like ounces. I could care less what it weighs. Not my pack overall,
Hmm.
but what I've done, like, I don't like, I'm on your Western Fly Covers website here. I'm looking at the Pursuit poncho. Where did you put the ounces on it? I thought I saw the ounces
It's
somewhere.
on there.
Okay. Anyway, I'm not going to blow a bunch of time looking
16
for it, but
ounces.
16 ounces. That's not something I look for. I know roughly what that poncho is going to weigh in my mind. And I know that by adding that to my day pack, I'm not going to notice it, because every single day I put a pretty heavy pack on my back and I walk. Right before we recorded, in fact, I have to pee like a crooked racehorse, because we go on these hikes around the property here, and I go through, I don't know, 24 ounces of water while we do that, and so anyway, the point is I love the fact that you get that technical with like the weight and that kind of stuff. For me, um like, I know what my puffy coat, for me, it's not a weight thing to put my puffy coat in there. It's that I've never, with the exception of times that I know I'm spending the night on the mountain, I've never needed it in September for me.
But there's the difference, because it's a lot of this is going to be hunt scenario dependent. Am I base
Yep.
camping? Am I off my back? Am I, hiking in from the backyard? Things of that nature are going to really determine what am I carrying on the mountain and why, right?
Okay.
And again, am I going to make it home to my wife and be able to see my grandkids if I have to stay out there, if I get stuck out there? Generally speaking, I'm hunting solo, right? So there's things that I would carry
Hmm.
solo that I may not necessarily carry in a party hunt, if you will, or hunting with a buddy, but it's a necessity when you're solo because if it goes bad, the only person I can rely on is me. And
Yeah.
part of that reliance is being prepared for any situation. Now, okay, it's September.
So do you?
Say the nights are 38, 37 degrees, right? No
Hmm.
shelter outside of a tarp. I'm not carrying a sleeping bag, right? So my puffy and my beanie are always in there, right? It just out
Makes
of
sense.
necessity. I've,
Makes
I've,
sense.
I was down in 71 hunting by myself a couple years ago. Got in some animals, been a rough 2 weeks, and hiked in 5 miles, and it sucked hiking up. And I was just truck camping, right? Sleeping in the bed of the truck on an Arab mattress. And I got up there and I opened my pack and I said, well, how can I stay in these animals and be on them in the morning? And decided, pulled out the beanie, pulled out the jacket, wrap up in the tarp, and hunkered down right there for the night. So again,
Yeah.
scenario dependent, really.
How far from the truck are you generally going in for like a day hunt out of curiosity? Because there's a reason why I'm getting to this because I do the exact same thing you're doing. I throw an air mattress in the back of my pickup. I got that, canopy shell thing in the pickup bed. Or sometimes I'll just kick my seat back. My newer F-150, dude, that thing,
Nope.
I could lay that bad boy back. You'd think I was at the Hilton. But I do prefer the mattress in the back of the truck
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you're definitely flatter, if that
Yeah,
makes sense. So,
I cannot like if I'm truck stop sleeping, I'll
mhm.
stay in that front seat. But dude, if I'm up on the mountain, I'm climbing into bed, especially after a hard day. But
Yeah,
to answer your
it does
question,
make better. Yeah, how far
it,
are you
it
going?
really it really depends on where I'm at, right? And like my fourth season rifle, I would say max I'm 5 miles. Um,
Is that
gen-
your no? Wait. 5 miles, is that total, or is that 5 miles in
in
hunt, 5 miles
in
back?
yes sir, yep.
Gotcha.
Um,
Gotcha.
I mean, and again, fourth season rifle, BLM, kind of flat, not steep and deep, right?
Mm-hmm.
Easy country to maneuver. Um, if we're talking, this is School of September. The
Yep.
elk are gonna really tell me where I should be. If the front country is super crowded, I generally won't leave it until I have exhausted it because a lot of those folks are going, that 4 to 5 mile range or think you have to, and more times than not, I've seen elk, um, within a half mile, mile and a half ish of a road when people think that they
Absolutely.
have to book their way back, right? So it's really dependent on what the animals are telling me I need to do. And again, going back to it, hence my day pack, having those necessities, right? The animals are dictating where I need to be because that's going to dictate my success. I'm not going to trek around 7 miles if I don't have to, but I need to be prepared to do whatever I have to do. But I would say generally, Jim, half a mile to a mile and a half on a day trip.
Yeah. In and then hunting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, yeah, that's pretty similar. Um, like if I spend all day from the truck, if I leave at sunup and I come back after it's dark, and I think this is going to be super dependent on where you're hunting. Like those guys in central Wyoming or something where it's just kind of rolling prairies, 10 miles is nothing. Uh, but high country Colorado or this northwest Montana country I'm hunting in, 10 miles is a big deal. That's not just a day trip.
I mean, can you legitimately in that country you're talking about do 10 miles in a day?
No. No.
Thank you. Thank you. That
I mean,
is
you can. You can. Hold on.
what are you doing? What are you doing to do 10 miles in a day in elk season? How many elk do you walk by in 10 miles of big, steep, deep country in September. You know what I mean?
Not steep.
My
So
September.
here's
Go
the
ahead.
thing, man. It's super steep here. It's super brushy. It's very slick. Just from the morning dew. I've hunted a lot. In like central Washington or even eastern Washington. I've hunted a ton in Utah. I grew up hunting in Utah, and that high country sage kind of timber in Utah. Man, today I could cover 10 miles with my eyes closed in that country. And I don't mean to, that came across wrong. I don't want to
No,
sound
dude,
like
I
some
understand what you're
arrogant asshole or something. It's not like that. It's if you're hunting that high desert country, 10 miles, it's really different than hunting North Idaho and Northwest Montana, this jungly, thick, patchy. It's not like we're on trails. You are going through deadfall
saying.
that
Mhm.
it could take you an hour to cover a half a mile. And I'm in pretty good dadgum shape, man.
You said Greek
I
God
can,
earlier.
what's that?
I said you said Greek God earlier, buddy.
I'm not. That was a slight exaggeration of the truth. But I am. I've been hiking through the mountains since I was a kid, man. I'm just kind of I'm a mountain goat. I can go. I can go and go and go. I might not be the fastest guy, but I can go just as far as anybody else. I'm an infantry Marine. I just walking miles is irrelevant to me. It's the type of country and the terrain that makes a difference.
Yes,
And
sir.
and when you're going through walls of alderbrush and huckleberry and it's wet and it's soaked and it's slippery and there's deadfall and everything else, you know, 5 miles in a day in this country is a big deal. That's a
Huge.
very, very tough hike.
Yep.
So that's my point, I guess I was trying to make there.
No, that's why I posed the question
Yeah,
because
it's a great question.
that is a arduous day, if you will.
I'm going to get people in Utah that are going to be like, dude, I heard what you said on School of September. You jerk. I, you can't, you come down here and show me your hiking skill.
And not to say that folks don't do it, right? I
It's
mean, there's
not,
guys out
it's
there.
just different. It's just different. If you haven't hunted this country up here I'm talking, I am less than 70 miles from the Canadian border. I'm in Montana and it's the same thing in North Idaho. We have grizzlies, we have wolves, we have all this crazy stuff up here. And the country is just different. And I've hunted all over the West. And so I'm not coming at this from some dude who thinks his marketplace reacts differently to advertising than anybody else's marketplace. No, I've hunted all over the West. I know this is very difficult country. In fact, when beginning hunting, I see this like on Facebook a lot. Coming out for my first elk hunt in North Idaho or Northwest Montana, dude. Why? Why would you do that? This is it's varsity level
Sexy.
elk hunting. Yeah. So
It's
anyway,
sexy, buddy. Um,
what else is in your pack, man? We're going way
in the
long
pack.
here.
Um, Med kit. So food, absolutely right. I'll have my food for the day, and I generally will pack 2 days of food at the beginning of the season that lives in the bottom of my pack, and doesn't get eaten unless it's out of necessity. And these are items
Mhm.
that don't require a jet boil or MSR or anything like that. I can
That's
eat
what I
it.
was going to ask you. Do you carry a jet boil every day or?
I used to, and it's just I don't. You know how it is. You're out on the mountain. You're not just grubbing all the time, right? You're
Mhm.
not eating. So I stopped carrying that stuff, right?
So what are you packing food wise?
Dude, I'll take packs of the tuna, the foil rip open packs,
Yep.
and I'll grub
Yep.
on that. Um, High calories, low weight is what I'm aiming for, right? I don't. My wife does really good fruit leather for me that we put some fats and stuff into. I love that stuff, but anything that's easy. I forget the name of it. There's a Brazilian kind of meat company, and they at Walmart, and they sell barbecue and roast beef, and then again rip open foil packs that I could just eat right out the pack. Doesn't need refrigeration. Cost me a few dollars each pack, and it's pretty good.
Yeah.
For September, right? I do a lot of the honey stinger things. a high, high calorie or real dense. I don't want to say protein bar, but kind of energy snack barish type thing. Hate Cliff
Yeah.
bars. Not
Yeah, I do too.
favorite
I
there.
do a lot of trail mix, like a
Yeah.
high protein nut trail mix, even with a little chocolate in it, kind of thing.
Oh, dude, give me
But
some chocolate chips and cashews, buddy.
yeah, man, cashews are money.
Yeah.
I do carry like a peak refuel and my jet boil. I do because I cover a lot of country and I like to take that 20, 30 minutes and sit down, break out the jet boil because I do the peak refuel for lunch and then I'll do a cup of coffee with it. Which, by the way, but I have to throw this out here, guy. Hang on, yeah, you dirty dogs out there that sent me all those nasty messages about the fact that I use those Starbucks instant coffee packs. God bless you. I was hoping I would catch a a hard time for that.
That's great.
But I do like those. But anyway, that's so um I do, and I do this a lot of times, especially if I'm guiding, I'll take, you need some gourmet coffee to take up. You need some, a good meal for the client or whatever. And, I like it. I like taking that break and I don't mind the weight of the jet boil. The problem is it makes me pack extra water bottles, in my pack outside of like the bladder. And so, or my Contigo, thing. So anyway, it's cool to hear different ways that you do it. I'm interested
Yeah,
in some of those
I
meats
got
you're
tired
talking
of
about.
searching for water, right? I mean, you're
Yeah.
up in that high country and water is scarce, and I've I carry the Catadine pump filter
Hmm.
from up, um, but they don't do good in elk wallows. so so I reserve the water for drinking, and I kind of stop with that. Now, if I'm going back to the canvas tent or truck camp, then absolutely a jet boil will bust out with a good old gastronome meal, and I'll grub on some of Shannon's. She makes a bison chorizo hash. Oh,
Oh,
dude, so
oh
good.
my goodness. You need to send me that one. Send me the
Really,
link.
really good. Um, what else is in that thing, man? So if we,
You
water
mentioned
filtration.
water
Oh, sorry.
filtration. Will you cover that one more time?
Yeah, so I use the Catadine, the microfiller the filter. It's the pump type. Um, and I Sawyer S3. I'll carry that one, and it's very rare that I'll use it at this point, but I keep it with me. It's really easy to use. The problem with that one is it limits me to the amount of water that I can take care of once. It is faster than most, but the plus with the Sawyer S3, and I'm not sure if the S3 is still available. I know the S2 is, but it takes care of everything, um, heavy metals, bacteria, viruses.
Did you
It
say
gets
that's
all that.
the Sawyer S3?
Yeah, the S3. They have the S2 too. I know a buddy of mine said he couldn't find the S3, so I'm not sure if they're still on the market. That one's super easy. It's basically a silicone bottle that has a filter inside. You fill it up, then it has the second filter on the
Hmm.
outside. Squeeze this thing a few times, and then you're able just to drink straight out of the bottle. In testing it, um, we did some pretty nasty wallow water,
Uh-huh.
and dude, it was amazing because the wallow water, I mean, you can filter it, right? But you still keep the pissy smell if it's a heavy hit wallow. And this stuff really pulled most of the pissy smell away from it, which was really, really cool, right? You didn't smell elk, or
Yeah.
you like you were drinking elk.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Uh-huh.
so I really like that one. It don't weigh much of anything, and I keep going back to weight, right? And like Jim saying he don't worry about weight. I'm not a huge weight,
No, no, no.
not ounce guy,
I worry about the total in my pack.
right?
I
Not
don't worry about the individual weights of everything because I know I don't carry nearly as much as most people do, man.
right.
I'm a minimalist.
Um,
I'm going back to this water pump here. I'm curious. So this must be the nature of like maybe where you're hunting. Like we have a bunch of wallows here, but I have
mhm.
never filtered water out of a wallow because there's always a nice
No,
moving creek
it wasn't.
somewhere
It was
close.
again. It wasn't necessity. It was, does this
Just
thing work?
just a test. Yeah.
Just to see, is it going to do what they say it's going to do? Is it going to get rid of some of that rancid ass odor from that animal splashing around and pissing all in it? And it does it. It
Huh.
definitely does.
Interesting.
And then you get to some of those, little entrapment ponds because of the high country cattlemen and whatnot, and they're filthy. And you look at it, and the water is stained this nasty yellowish, bright green.
Yeah.
I don't want to smell it when I drink it, right? So, I really, really like the Sawyer S2, S3 for that, and then the Catadine microfilter, just that pump style. You get into some better water, a spring or a creek or something, and that thing has been money.
Like the squeeze water. I'm
No,
asking.
not there.
I'm focused on this because I'm in the market for a new water filtration system.
Yeah, so
So
with the Sawyer, it's the S3, but with the pump filter, it's the Catadine. I'm not sure which
okay,
one.
okay, I'll figure it out. I might
But I
just
really,
text
I
you.
really like that system. That system, a buddy of mine actually was using it, and I'm like, dude, that's way better than what I'm using. And then he fit a quick connect uh, onto it, so
Hmm.
then I was able to plug and play right into my bottle, pump it up. I use one of the hard side hydration bottles.
Yeah.
Um, and I can just plug it right into that and pump directly into that from the filter. So I really like that system. The one thing that we haven't even touched on that is in my head is first and foremost is I don't even say boots. I say your footwear system,
Oh,
right?
yeah, let's talk about that.
Your boots, your socks, if you choose to opt in on an insole, right? And there's, again, you talk about the marketing aspects of it, what's popular in the hunting industry, or what's available to you, is sometimes the limiting factor, right? You can
Hmm.
get online and you can check out a pair of, Crispies or what have you, but you haven't tried them on, and you order those Crispies, and you're like, oh crap, I got hot spots, I got X, I got Y, I got Z. Um, you can jump on and you can look at the Hoffmans, right? And with Jim's boot, Jim makes a phenomenal boot.
Yep.
Now, when you talk about Hoffman, you're talking about a full leather upper. Full leather boots like that are going to take some conditioning. They're going to take some care. Um, is that something that you're going to remember to do, spend time in? You're spending $400, plus or minus on a boot. There's some care that goes into a full boot or a full leather boot like that. If you have a rubber rand going into it, depending on how all that's bond together, you allow that leather to dry up, shrink out. You're going to pull that rand in. You're never going to get the rand back out, right? So
Yeah.
there's some stuff there um, that you got to deal with on that. But just to say, I ordered this boot because it's X brand boot, never had tried it on, did not match the sock with the boot, which is hugely impactful if you're putting a lot of miles in and you're in, call it adverse terrain, right?
Hmm.
Side hilling, super steep, downhills, things like that, right? That sock is
What hurt at your age, guy? What hurts the most, side healing, uphill, or downhill?
in season. What hurts the most?
Yeah.
My heart. The fuck kind of question is that? It's September, bro. I'm heartbroken more than I'm elated. Um,
That's a good.
you know,
That's a
I
really good answer.
I don't I don't I don't really feel the effect. I live in the mountains. I'm always in the mountains. I recreate in the mountains. My backyard is a freaking mountain. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I don't really feel it. When I do feel it, it is because I'm walking in a box of matchsticks that the good Lord decided he was going to blow an entire forest over on a hillside.
Yeah.
That's when I
Yeah.
start to
Yeah.
feel it, right?
Yeah. That
But
sucks.
generally speaking, dude, I can go for days.
What
Um,
What did you mean by matching your socks with your boot? I want to dig into that.
okay, so you said we talked about the packs and we said bodies are all different,
Hmm.
right? I mean, if you look at your left foot and your right foot, they are not the same.
Yeah.
Okay, we all have different width feet. We all have different length feet. Between our 2 feet, those two things are different. Our arches are different. Um, the makeup of socks, like for me, like a regular hiking sock, like an REI type hiking sock,
Uh-huh.
I don't like, right? And the reason that I don't like them is not because it's not a good sock. It could be the material. Nylon does not do good with my body. It stinks to high heaven if I wear nylon, but
Yeah,
generally
me too.
speaking, most socks have a interior stitched toe seam. Okay.
Wool,
In
did you say wool socks do?
no, most,
Most socks. Okay.
right? So if you look at a sock, Hanes or whatever, that toe seam has a stitch. That stitch is fat on the inside. I don't want that. I don't want anything that's going to create a potentiality to have a hot spot, cause
Hmm.
me a blister. September is my month, right? I hunt everything I can as much as I can the rest of the year, but that's my month. I don't want any of those issues. I don't want padding on the back of the sock that goes up too high, that does not fit in the boot of choice with my foot, with my heel, right? There's I'm not going to say the brand because I'm not talking bad, but I'm not talking nice. Anyway, they make a very nice hiking sock and my wife puts it on and she absolutely loves it. I bought a pair of those almost $30 socks and I hated them. My boot selection with my foot and the padding on the back of that sock that comes up the heel a little too high, right? It's breaking, we'll say, the top of my Achilles. And with my boots, the way that the heel cup is in those boots and the way that it functions, it started to create a hot spot. I don't want that, right? I'm on the mountain and I'm going, nope, not the sock for me. What am I going to do? If I'm out on that hunt, the first thing that's going to go, unless I eat it, trip over something and fall down, bump my head, are
Yeah.
going to be my feet, right? I mean,
Yeah.
bad feet are
Yeah.
going to kill your hunt faster than anything. So
Absolutely.
taking the time to say, this is the boot. Okay. This is the hard part. This is the challenge in this. And I'll try and not be too freaking long winded. I want that boot because whatever the reason is, I got that boot. I don't consider the sock. I don't consider the insole. And I buy the insole that's popular and say that that insole is yay thick, right? Say it's a eighth of an inch thick, and the heel of the insole is just over eighth of an inch hit, and it has some drop from the heel to the toe. Well, I've just changed the volume of the boot. Now I couple that with the new sock that also takes up volume in the boot, right? So these
Mhm.
things have to function together. Now, if I'm cold, if I'm hot, my feet swell, my feet shrink. How does that volume fluctuate? Do I have too much room? Do I have too little room? As my feet swell, I've already decreased the volume, say, with the sock and the insole by 40%. My feet swell up, and say my feet swell, and it takes up another 20% of that toe box room. I'll just use
Yeah.
the toe, right? But I'm taking volume and I'm making shifts on volume as I'm hunting. If I don't consider these things as I'm looking at my footwear system, I have a miserable ass hunt. Dude, I've seen more hunts ended or slowed down or crappy days because somebody has this big ass blister or their feet are killing them and they can't get their feet comfortable or their toes are crammed up the front of their boot. You can go break a boot in, right? Hoffman, I never had to break a pair of Jim's boots in on my feet.
Yeah. No, I
Never.
haven't either. And
I've never
Hoffman,
changed the insoles on his boots, but
yeah.
I always paired my socks with the boot with the insole selection. Um, I think there's more to it than saying I like X boot, grab a pair of socks, never put
Hmm.
them on or put them on and think that me walking around for 5 or 10 minutes is going to be the same as me walking around for 2 to 5 miles. So I think
Yeah,
there's some screw
absolutely.
have to be in there. Right now,
Yeah.
you wear a pair of boots for work every day, and they're not the same. It's not the same makeup on the boot. It doesn't have the same support. They're not looking for the same things. You don't have the toe ran. So there's all these factors when we talk about footwear that people don't take into account. The stiffness of the sole, right? I mean, what is it? Is it one? Is it a three? Is it a four? Why do you prefer that? Is a one or two sole stiffness going to perform on side hilling North Montana, right?
Yeah.
You have a softer sole under load. You killed your bull. Now you're trying to pack out, a quarter in a loose meat bag. How is the sole stiffness going to affect your ability to move in that terrain under that load? Like for me, I'm damn near an alpine boot in terms of
Yeah.
stiffness. You know what I mean? Like sole stiffness, dude, like almost the stiffer the better in every scenario for me. a c- I I run Salewas pretty religiously now.
Which ones did you say?
Salewa.
So, oh,
I've been
gotcha.
I've been running Salewa for 4 years, 5 years, somewhere in there, maybe four. Um, and the reason that I did that was because what I talked about earlier is the maintenance of the boot, right? Full leather uppers, I've ruined too many of them. But then with the shape of my foot and the design on most of the Salewas, at least the ones I choose to run, they work perfectly. I love the Ravens and I
Hmm.
love the Crow. Um, Again, my foot with the sock of my selection, and Salewa's soles are garbage. The insoles are like this. I mean,
Oh, really?
literally, they're like a 16th of an inch, dude. But I run the Wuru Wool New Yarn socks. Um, and they've done a phenomenal job with designing a outdoor sock. Again, cushion heel, kind of comes up the Achilles, um, doesn't have a toe seam, semi cushion in the arch, and not much up in the ball of the foot. For my feet in the boots that if I go try a pair of boots on, those socks go with me.
Yeah.
If I'm gonna run a darn tough this year, I'm gonna say I need a pair of darn toughs to go with me to try these boots on. Um,
Do you
so
recommend? Here? I always recommend wool socks. What do you recommend?
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely,
Okay. Okay. I
yeah,
just think
that's
it's
what.
kind of a no brainer. They just they keep themselves dry, and you know how I told you I like to stop and heat up the jet boil and make a cup of coffee and a peak refuel or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, I always take my boots off and I put my socks up on a limb and dry them out for the day. And so that, I don't really carry a pack of extra socks. Again, I have, it's different. I never want to sound like a jerk when I say this, but I have Marine feet. I'm a Marine infantryman. So my feet just they're hammered shit, man. I can just keep them going no matter what anymore. But that, and Hoffman boot, they sponsored the show for a long time. I'm a big fan of that Explorer boot. Um, but there's other really good boots out there, and that
Totally.
insole thing is something I think I need to focus on this year because it's just more of a comfort thing. And I can improve on that comfort level. Okay. So anything you want to add on the boots because I got a really good question for you.
No, I would just say, again, it's hard, right?
It
For
is
for
hard.
folks to
It's
go
very
through
hard.
this level of how do I figure this out? How do I do this, right? And
Yeah.
my suggestion, as difficult as it is, call around or go to an expo and try on as many boots as you can. Look at reviews from people, but also consider their hunting scenario. The reason that I went with Salewa is it is a mountaineering company with their R&D is like to the moon and back,
Hmm.
right? Like
Yeah.
that's what I started looking at. Not many folks in the hunting realm know of Salewa, have looked at Salewa. They're not necessarily a brand that is go hunter. Um, but dude, when I found a place that had them, I made the 3 hour drive. I tried them on with my socks, considered what kind of insole, if any. So I pulled them out and bought a pair, a cheap medium thickness insoles and put them in there just to see what it did for the volume and made a decision from there. Um,
Nice.
I it has to be what works for you in anything we're talking about right now. So go ahead.
Absolutely. Okay. So we've gone through we've been going for like 2 hours here, and so I want to kind of like start narrowing this down from a standpoint of in guy's mind. By the way, maybe you can win a free T-shirt on this show if you can pronounce Guy's last name correctly. uh Say your last name, Guy Duplantier. Did I
You
say it
just said
right?
Yeah,
Is
you
that
just said it.
okay?
So how
Okay.
the hell are they going to win a T-shirt if you tell them how to say it?
Because even if you hear that name pronouncing it without practicing, you have to just pronounce it right off the.
You
You
got
know,
to show
I
them the spelling before you do that,
like
though.
I'm a simple guy, man. I remember the first time I talked to Joe Gilia, I pronounced his name Giglia
Giglia?
or something.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
there's a ton of people that do that.
Right. It's just that's what it looks like it says, and so um when you're talking when we're talking about an overall system, I call everything that you carry from your bow to your boots to your camo to your pack to your harness to your everything is your system when you go out, and
Yep.
it's really important that your system works together. It's really important that your system is makes you feel more confident in the woods. It helps you stay out there longer, keeps you more comfortable when you're out there, so you're focused on being lethal instead of worrying about your feet hurting or your back hurting or anything like that. It's a system. My system is constantly evolving, but I have staples. I have and I want to get your take on if the listeners that are listening to this, whether it's their first season or their 40th season, going out there, in your mind, what are the three most critical components of your system, whether it's boots, pack, camel, whatever? What are the three most important components in your mind that you shouldn't skimp out on? You shouldn't pull a Joe Gilly on and go as cheap as you can. I mean, you should actually fork out the money, spend a little bit of extra money or a little extra care or time or effort putting into making that decision to what that component is to your system, and you have found that has been very beneficial for you for not skimping on. If yeah, that's the
Okay.
question.
Um, First and foremost, my footwear system. Okay, we just talked about that, so I won't reiterate anything there.
Agree.
Um, what's on the front of my arrow? I mean, I don't care if you're shooting a 20-year-old Darton and you're lethal accurate with the wrong broadhead. I don't even want to say mechanical, but with the wrong
We
instrument.
could, yeah. We
Yeah,
see eye to
I
eye.
would
We
get you
see
in
eye to
big
eye.
trouble right now.
No. We're on the same page, brother.
Yeah, I think that's hugely important. You're spending a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of energy into this. Why not insure it? Good shot placement is one thing, but S happens. I want some assurance there. Don't skimp on that, and don't, have something that's not going to do the job and leave two holes and be lethal to that animal right then and there within a few hours, on a bad shot or something like that, and you watch that animal run off with a arrow barely in it for him to suffer in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And thirdly, it's rough. That is a rough one, dude.
That is a rough one, huh? I always see we are actually my two of my three components are never skimp on your boots and your footwear, right? Always do spend as much as you possibly can on really good stuff. And that's why I really like that Hoffman setup for they sponsored the show. Jim sponsored the show for a long time. And in that Hoffman boot is a lot of bang for your buck, and that's really why I liked it. It's a very comfortable boot. You don't have to break it in. They don't sponsor the show, so I'm not, whatever. And a broadhead, a really good broadhead makes me, and take it from a guy who has hit elk and never found them. I can't reconcile the pain that creates for me as a hunter who feels like he owes it to the animal to be as lethal as he can. And my broadhead and the fact that I was shooting right eye as a left eye dominant was a failure point for me. So have you come up with a third one for you?
Yeah, thinking about it, I would say I carry a utility kit, and that utility kit has,
What do you
my
mean a
Allen
utility
wrenches.
kit?
Well, so I build out an Allen wrench key that I can
Oh, okay.
put on my bow in the field, right? So I have that. I have a lighter in there. I have pyro putty in there, or a fire starter of some sort in there. I got duct tape or, Gorilla Tape in there. Um, Backup battery for the rangefinder. I carry one 4-inch, 1-inch webbing Sea to Summit um, load strap, and then I carry a 6-footer. Those are handy dandy when you're by yourself and
Mm-hmm.
you're trying to maximize your load pack out. Even with a really good pack, it just gives that extra security. You know how that load shifting will kill a pack out. So those are in there. Back A backup headlamp is in there. I usually have one in my hip pouch. I've never used my backup. It's one of those redundant things that I've just done for so long.
Oh man,
Um,
I have. I think that's a critical. I have definitely used a backup. All night pack out.
oh,
You'll need it.
yeah, I've never used one, but what concerns me is, because I'll walk through the woods in the dark, with the right moonlight. But if I'm moving and you don't have that headlamp and you're trying to navigate, man, you take an eye out or something on a limb, you're in a worse situation.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the only real fear I pack for, is that redundancy. And there's a few things in there, right? I'll carry like a ripstop repair kit if I tear, a piece of clothing or my puffy or something along those lines. And then I always carry like a additional water filter type straw, or um, tablets to treat
Yeah,
water
yeah.
in case I need
Iodine
that.
tablet kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll have my utility kit. So I would say that that would probably be my third one if I'm thinking of what's going to keep me out on the mountain and hunting. If I was a smart businessman, I would have said a Western Fly product, but that should go without saying. The
uh,
Pursuit Poncho.
the thing with that Western Fly, those products, whether it's that tarp or the pack cover, the fly cover, is those again, not to beat these things to death, but I'm on the website here, so I keep there. It's like top of mind right now. But they're so versatile, and it's the thing that like you might forget is in your pack, but once you need it, you won't regret having it in there, and it doesn't add enough weight to even be of account. Um,
Absolutely.
so we differ a little bit on our top three. My top three is your footwear, and that I agree with you. The socks, like, don't get some high dollar pair of boots and then wear freaking Fruit of the Looms cotton socks.
Mhm. Yeah.
You'll regret it. A really good broadhead. My recommendation for any elk hunter out there is that Vantage Point Omega 150 grain single bevel with the bleeder. Oh my goodness,
Mhm.
dude! I shot a snowshoe hare with one of those.
Oh, dude,
It
that's
just I don't know why I did it either. Like my girls were with me and they were so mad at me. I did. I,
Have
I
you
was gonna.
used the small game thumper? Have you used that yet?
Yes, I have for
Oh,
grouse.
sweet.
It
Dude,
works. It works great.
farm it. Whistle pigs catch hell around the property,
Yes,
son.
yes, sir. Yes,
You
sir.
watch
So,
the energy transfer. It's so visual that it's alarming.
oh man, I'm gonna use it for turkey. I thought it
Oh,
was going to be guiding for turkeys, but nobody. Hey, if any of you listening that are like in the realm of Northwest Montana want to come shoot some turkeys, you guys, I have access to some really epic private land ranches where these turkeys are running. Like, here's the thing: we never guarantee you're going to fill your tag. I'll give you the Western Huntsman guarantee that if you come turkey hunting with me, you're going to fill your tag. Okay, these like nobody hunts these turkeys up here. So you cough, you blow your nose wrong. These things are gobbling and running at you. So check out elkcreekoutfitting.com if you want to come up and hunt turkeys with me. But anyway, so far I don't have any turkey clients, which is good, so I can hunt turkeys myself. But I'll get one of those broadheads. So anyway, my top three: broadhead, good foot system, footwear system, whatever you called it. I like the idea of calling it a system. I never think to do that. I just say boots. And a really good pack, the kind of pack that will you want your pack to be a part of your body. That when you're on the mountain, you're not thinking about, oh man, my pack is weighing down my left shoulder, or my lower back's hurting, or It's just writing weird, whatever, but a really good pack system. And that pack, again, the brand needs to be what you figure it out. I'm a Mystery Ranch guy. I love that IA4. I love the Eberly stock. But those Mystery Ranch packs just fit me the best. And so anyway, the point is, and there's a lot of other good packs out there. A lot of guys are like real big into those XO packs. What's that other big name, man? Glacier.
There's Stone Glacier. There's
Stone
Kafar.
Glacier has some good ones. Well, yeah,
There's
Kafaru has some great packs. There's all sorts of them, guys. But you want the point with what we are talking about is never skimp on getting tags over getting gear. But when it's time to buy gear, make sure, like, if you need to save up for another couple of pay periods or whatever, make sure you're not skimping on that gear, because I think that those are the three critical things that are going to make or break your hunt: your footwear, your pack, and your broadhead for archery.
Don't buy a pack that you haven't put a load on exceeding 50 pounds, because that's going to really be the game changer, right? Soon as these, excuse me, a lot of the packs, even like the lower end packs, they'll feel good, 25, 35 pounds, or when you just put them on. And then soon as you hit that load, right? Soon as you have half that mule deer in, or you have, elk quarter in a loose meat bag, and that pack has to perform, you want something that is going to perform and not drive the load to your shoulders. You want something that is rigid and flexible at the same time. We don't have the time for me to even get into that with Jim.
We're gonna have to come. You're gonna have to come back on for another School of September Gear Series, man. We'll do a pack special.
Yeah, and then you want something that has as much adjustment as humanly possible. Okay, and then I don't mean because girth is an issue. I mean, can I adjust my hip suspension, and can I adjust my shoulder suspension up and down? Our torsos are different, right? So if I see a pack and it has 8 inches of adjustment for my up and down for my shoulder suspension and doesn't have anything on my hip, I can't move that up or down. I can't adjust that. I'm ignoring it. I need to be able as much adjustment up and down, vertically and horizontally, if you will, and then the combination of rigidity and flexibility. I think those things, at least for me, are what lend itself to a solid pack, and that's one of the reasons that the Initial Ascent is what it is, right? They figured out how to take those things, put it in a system that is, and they're not the most modular, right? But like you said, the IA 4K, well, that frame and suspension is the same on the 8K all the way down to the 2K, all the way down to their, what Dennis and Joe call day mode, when you're just running the pannier. And then it's the bag selection based on, the duration of your hunt that you should be looking at there. Jim's 4K, I've done.
That's what's on the wall behind me that you're looking at. That's that 4K pack. Yeah.
Yeah. I've done like 9 or 10 days out of the 4K.
Have you really?
Yeah. And I think then I said I was going to say this, so I'm saying it. Shout out to Initial Ascent. It is in my opinion, for my use, for my body, it is the epitome of pack efficiency. And when I say pack efficiency, its ability to carry load and still perform, or still feel like it's performing the same under a lighter load, right? And you still feel the load, but where are you feeling the load? I want to feel the load in my legs. I don't want to feel it in my hips or, on my iliac crest. I don't want to feel it, cramming down on my delts. That's the worst.
Yeah.
Where's, dude, I can go on. We have to do episode 2 because I know we're running long for yours.
Yeah. We really should, man. Let's let this one get out, and kind of maybe people wrap their minds around, some of these basics that we've talked about, and then go a little bit deeper on packs and deeper on, different various components of your system. as you're out there, because we didn't even talk about rain gear outside of the poncho. We didn't talk about camo. We didn't talk about. I mean, for me, I like a good hat, right? I just bought me a Western Fly hat on your website, by the way.
Oh, did you?
You betcha. You
Man,
betcha I did.
buddy, thank you. I appreciate that. You like
And
that, huh?
I
You'll
do.
love
I
it.
like that
Dude.
hat.
It's so comfy.
I like it. It's a cool hat. And for those of you that are audio only listeners, which again, that's all of you because I don't do video. He's wearing a cool Western Fly hat, and so I just ordered one. And but yeah, let's do it again, man. We are running super
Absolutely,
long
brother.
on this one. But I think we covered a lot of good ground, and so let's jump back on in a couple of months, and especially because I think like everybody's getting their gear dialed in right now. It's like what April 1st or 2nd or something like that right now. It's the 2nd, so everybody's kind of dialing in their systems, and I think people get their foundational stuff done by about now, but around June-ish, that's when it's kind of go time to get those last minute items and those last those things because I like this is and maybe you are you do this stuff quite a bit more than I do from a standpoint what is the name of you do the Western or I'm sorry, the Western
Western Hunt Fest.
Hunt Fest with the archery, the 3D shoots, and all that kind of stuff. So you're more dialed into that than I am, but I like to take my whole system around June, and I do not shoot my bow without being fully geared up. And I go through and I shoot. Well, that's not true. Sometimes I'll run out there and just fling arrows for a minute, but I like to get fully geared up, and that's how I'm shooting because I don't like any surprises when I have a screaming freaking bull in front of me and come to find out like this is what happened to me. Well, you guys are going to find out. Um, I won't talk about that right now. That's for down the road. Anyway,
You know what's funny on that point is people say that a lot. Okay, people say, "Oh, I put all my gear on." If I go to the public range, because I'm that guy too. When I go to the public range, and the amount of stares, like I'm a dumbass for doing it.
Yeah, I know, man.
I would tell you that the majority of people are bullshitting and they don't gear up and they don't try and make sure that everything is functioning. The entire system, if we're talking systems,
your full system,
entire system,
down to the socks you're going to wear, because your sock, the depth and the thickness of your socks is going to affect the way that you stand, and that little micrometer might make all the world of difference. And so, I agree. I go to those public ranges here locally, and I'll show up, and dudes are walking around in flip flops and sweatpants or whatever. I'm telling you, that's okay, except for from June to September, from all summer long. If you're practicing that with that bow. And I don't know. I shouldn't be such a hard ass with that. If you just want to go fling some arrows in the backyard or something, I do that too. And I'll go out in my tennis shoes or whatever and shorts. But when I do run through this like 3D course that I set up on my property, I'm getting geared up and I'm fully geared out from June through September. Not right now. I'm not doing that because I don't want all my crap getting wet and have to, because it rains every day here in Northwest Montana. So anyway, hopefully that helps you guys listening, and this stuff makes a lot of sense to you, and it's going to help you guys get closer to, getting that, our dreams come true when you're notching those tags. And that's the point of these episodes. I know that sometimes some of the stuff I say is maybe controversial to some of you out there because I get your nasty emails. And I say it in every episode. It's not like they bother me. I actually like getting them, but at the same time, it tells me that you guys are listening and you're thinking about this kind of stuff because this is what we get emotionally wrapped up in, and it's what's important to us. And so I appreciate that kind of stuff because it means to me, you take this serious. And I can't think of anybody better than Guy. To have on for this kind of discussion because again, we take this stuff serious. It feels weird actually, Guy, like you and I recording without Chris Rowe chiming in.
Yeah.
Where's he been? He's been hiding under a rock lately, man.
Chris has been under a rock, brother. I mean, the plus there is that we got 2 words in.
He is long-winded.
because
But
Chris gets going, buddy, and he's swinging.
I love it.
And
Yeah.
if I can love you, Chris, throw something on that, right? I mean, it's fit and function, right? And that's kind of what Jim was getting after with going and testing the gear. And we're not saying to do it every single time. Do it 4 or 5 times before season. Ultimately, we both have podcasts because we love our demographic. We love what we do. We love to share it. But the success that comes from these conversations to the listenership, and when that's translated back, there's no credit taking in there, but there is a sense of pride that we may have done something that helped you. Um, it's a big deal for us. So, take
Absolutely.
that for what you will, but there's more than just us shooting the breeze about gear, right? It really boils down to we care about our demographic and we want to see everyone successful out there. And that's just not, words to just be talking into the microphone. So,
And success means so many different things too, guy. Like, if you notch a tag on a big bull elk or a cow during September archery season, nobody's going to be happier for you than I am, except for yourself that just did that, right? And so that's great. But I can't tell you how to define your own success. For us, I just want you to get the most out of hunting season. This is a lifestyle. This is a primal thing that we do. And for me, success is getting out there. Like if I even hear a bull bedded 500 yards from me that gives me that little just
mm.
lazy bugle back. Oh my goodness, for me, that's a successful day, and I hope it is for you guys too. These animals are amazing. They're very difficult to hunt. You got to understand the odds are against you, and that's why guys like me and Guy like to talk about this stuff, because we know this is an uphill battle to getting to a notch tag, and it's just what makes it so beautiful. If it was easy, everybody would do it.
Well, and we understand what it takes to get there, right? We share in the success,
Yep.
whatever that looks like, but we also know the hardship. And if you're endeavoring to pursue this way of life, in my eyes, that hardship and your ability to see those through tells me this is the kind of person I'm dealing with, right? So it's easy for me to feel like I have brethren on the other side of this conversation that are listening. I know what you're going through. That's one of the most remarkable things about our demographic, because there's nothing else in life where your success rate is 10% or less and people keep trudging away
Oh
and living
man, that's so true. That's
right.
such a
You
good
don't
point.
quit.
Yeah.
If 10% was the marker for everything else, you'd sit on the fucking couch and drink Dr. Pepper and eat potato chips all day because you don't want to do anything that
Yep.
10% is it, right? So the diligence and the fortitude and the gumption it takes to continue that kind of shit is, dude, I got chills talking about it. You know what I
Oh
mean? I want
man.
Jim to
Yeah.
see him so he knows
I'm
I
all
ain't.
sorts of worked up over you. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a
dude,
great point.
it's a remarkable thing that we do to go out there and pursue these animals. And it's no small feat. It is no small feat to be out there and get kicked in the guts 10 times for success,
Yeah.
maybe once if you're lucky. So,
Absolutely. Think about it, man. Like
oh, dude.
if these guys that are all into golf go out and they only had a 10% chance of getting that ball to fall into
Mhm.
that hole, they wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
But elk hunting
Guys
is
that are,
different. Elk
yeah,
hunting
the
is
guys
different.
that are golfing, 120.
I don't even know
you
what
know
that means, man. I don't golf.
The lower the
So,
score, the better the golfer. The higher
okay.
the score, the shittier the golfer.
Well,
Yeah,
I'd probably golf like a 1,000, I think.
yeah. It's just an amazing thing that we pursue, right?
Yeah.
And for me, the human side. You always say I philosophize about hunting, right?
Oh, absolutely.
That's the most amazing part of it. You know what I mean? Like if you watch what people go through and get the shit kicked out of them day after day to pursue that dream of getting that 180 mule deer or even a raghorn bull or that cow elk,
Yeah.
it's remarkable, dude. Remarkable. And we asked to do it.
We do. I mean, I tell you what, man, on those Septembers where I haven't tagged out and that sun is setting on that last night, the sun's setting, I've got no bugles, I've got no notch tag. All I'm thinking about when that sun finally does set and puts me out of my September misery is I'm thinking about next season.
Yeah.
Okay,
Isn't it
it's time to
crazy?
figure out where did I go wrong? It's time to fix it for next season. So nothing else
Yeah.
is like that.
No,
Well, cool,
nothing at all.
man.
If that was a job,
Hey,
you'd be done.
I appreciate you taking this long, dealing with
I'd sit
me.
on with you for 10 hours, bro.
Oh man, we could do this for a long time, man. And I'm not exaggerating. You guy. It's been way too long since I've had you on. Um, whoops, hang on one sec. I messed up my computer. Now, where'd you go?
I'm here.
Oh,
I
there you go.
still
There
see.
we go. There we go. Okay. Anyway, it's been way too long since I had you on, and I'm pushing way
Ain't you a
too many
professional?
buttons. I've only been doing a podcast for like 5 years, man. Anyway, it's been way too long since I've had you on. I really, you're one of those guys I just always want to talk to, and I just appreciate you joining me. This was a great episode, and hopefully, this is just kind of one of many to help people gear up for September. And any last closing thoughts you want to let people know about, and also and tell everybody where they could find you.
Okay. No, I really don't have anything to close with outside of, man. Thank you. You know, like I said, it's the epitome of where you're at in the world when you're on School of September, and I don't say that begrudgingly or jokingly. I legitimately mean it.
Thanks, brother.
Western Contours on Instagram, Western Fly Covers on Instagram, Western Contours on every major platform in terms of podcast, and then Carbon TV. Um, Western Hunt Fest, my hands in everything. And they're all same as Western. Western Hunt Fest 3D archery shoot. We do a pack out challenge. We're very educational based. Elk calling seminars, elk calling competition. We do our pack out challenge. The men pack out a elk, women pack out a mule deer, and that's it's called a challenge, but the challenge is with you, yourself, your gear, and your ability to function out on the mountain and get you ready for September, October, November, whatever that season is. We got 3 shoots this year. Check us out. Outside of that, my brother, always a pleasure.
Where are the 3 shoots?
This year we are starting our season in Colorado, Colorado Springs, and then we're going to run down to Raton, New Mexico at the NRA Whittington Center, and then we're back in Colorado for the American Bowman Shoot in Bailey, Colorado.
Got it.
Our Raton event this year, we are adding a rifle course. So we'll have steel targets out to 600 yards is what we're starting with. And all our shots, you're not walking up to a pin standing square. It's hunt scenario based. So you may have one pin where you have to draw and let down, draw again, shoot, hold for 30 seconds, rifle crawl. We do some elevated heart rate stuff at a couple of the pins. So we really try and put you in the situation that you're going to be on the mountain. It's never well, I shouldn't say never, right? But you're never standing square at the pin in the field and looking at a perfectly broadside animal. So again, educational base. But man, I appreciate you having me on.
Good deal.
Yeah. And
cool.
What I'll do is I'll kick a code. I'll call it Huntsman. Let's call it Huntsman 15, and I'll run that for a little while for Western Fly Cover. So anybody wants to get a pursuit poncho, mountainside fly, quarter utility fly, one of these badass hats, jump on westernflycovers.com and use code Huntsman15. So it'll be capital H, Huntsman15.
All right, you guys heard it right from him. I will put that in the show notes so that you can get on the website there and use that cool promo code. That's awesome. So, Guy, appreciate it very much. That was actually, I really like, I surprisingly, I like talking about gear. It's never been my thing, man. Never been my thing, man. So I really appreciate you doing that. Shout out to the sponsors on the show: Loophole Optics, Vantage Point Archery, Barnes Bullets, Phelps Game Calls, and Silencer Central, and the Browning X-Bolt 2. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next time, and have a great time, or have a great night, guys. Thanks. You made it. That's the end of the episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please make sure you're following us on Instagram at The Western Huntsman, and write us a good review at Apple Podcasts. Thanks, guys. See you next time. Stay Western, and I'll see you on the mountain.